Welcome to the Extraordinary 10 podcast, the place where the most magnificent and mind-bending facts in existence are explained to you in vivid detail. Today we are embarking on a massive journey. We've researched 10 extraordinary facts about the Kingdom of Fungi. We aren't just giving you a list, we are diving deep into the science, the mystery, and the why behind these wonders. If you love exploring the unknown, don't forget to share this episode with a friend and subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to support the show and ensure you never miss a deep dive. All right, are you ready to see the world differently? Let's start the clock. We're officially starting the clock. You might think you know the basics of this subject, but the reality is much bigger than you imagine. Let's start with the true scale. Fact number 10. So we're kicking things off with the fact we've called the Third Kingdom. And I have to be honest, when I was reading the research you sent over, this was the moment I had to physically put the papers down.
I know that feeling.
I just stared at the wall for a second. It completely rewired how I see something as simple as the grocery store.
It's a total paradigm shift, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, think about it. You walk into the produce section, right? You've got your lettuce, your carrots, your peppers. And then sitting right there, usually between the spinach and the onions, are the mushrooms.
Portobellos, buttons, creminis, all of them.
And your brain just, it automatically files them away. Okay, that grows in the dirt. It doesn't move. I put it in my salad. It's a plant.
It's the most natural assumption in the world to make. I mean, visually, they share so many characteristics with plants.
They seem rooted in place.
Exactly. They have what looks like a stem, and like you said, we treat them as vegetables when we cook, but if we're being scientifically accurate, which is the whole point of this deep dive, that assumption isn't just a little off.
It's completely wrong.
It's biologically dead wrong.
And that's really the core of fact number 10, isn't it? We're not just talking about some weird category of plant.
No, not at all. We're talking about an entirely distinct kingdom of life.
Okay.
When you actually look at the genetic and the molecular evidence, the blueprints fungi are not plants.
What are they?
Here's the kicker. Fungi are evolutionarily closer to animals. They are closer to you and to me than they are to any tree or flower or blade of grass you've ever seen.
Okay, let's sit with that for a second.
It's a big one.
You're telling me that the mushroom on my pizza shares more of its deep history, its DNA, with me, the person eating it, than with the green peppers right next to it.
Precisely. And I don't mean that in some vague, we're all connected kind of way. I mean it in a strict biological sense.
On the family tree of life.
Exactly. If you trace the branches way back, the branch that led to plants split off a long, long time ago, but the branch that eventually split into animals and fungi, that stayed together for millions of years longer. We're cousins.
That's the part that just blows my mind. Because they look nothing like us.
Yeah.
But the research points out that to understand it, we have to look at the most basic thing in life. How do you get energy? How do you eat?
Exactly. This is the great divide. On one side, you have the plants. They're what we call autotrophs.
Autotrophs, meaning self-feeders.
Right. They are, for all intents and purposes, solar engineers. They take sunlight, CO2 from the air, and water, and they build their own food from scratch.
Photosynthesis, the lesson we all learned in high school biology.
Correct. But fungi can't do that. They lack chlorophyll.
So no converting sunlight into sugar.
Physically impossible. If you put a mushroom in a dark room with a food source, it thrives. You put a plant in a dark room, it withers and dies. Like animals, and like us, fungi are heterotrophs.
Meaning they have to go out and get their food?
They have to find organic molecules that already exist and consume them. So just on that fundamental level of where's my energy come from, they're on our team, not the plant team.
That makes sense. Consumers, not producers. But the research notes went so much deeper. It was about the actual cellular machinery. There was this visualization in the text that was just absolutely wild. I'd love for you to walk everyone through that.
Oh, yes. It's a great way to kind of strip away that vegetable bias we all have. Okay, so for everyone listening, unless you're driving, please keep your eyes open if you're driving. Just imagine you're kneeling in a forest.
I'm there. It's dawn. It's damp. I can smell the earth.
Perfect. And you're looking at a rotting log. Spouting from that log is a cluster of honey mushrooms. You know the kind, those golden umbrella-shaped caps? They look so still.
Very plant-like, just part of the scenery.
Now imagine you can shrink down. Smaller than an insect, smaller than a microbe. You slip right inside the tissue of that mushroom cap.
Okay, I'm in. What am I seeing?
You'd witness something that would probably startle you. The fungus is breathing.
Now, we need to be clear here. We're not talking about lungs, right?
Yeah.
There's no tiny chest rising and falling.
No lungs, no diaphragm, nothing like that. But at the molecular level, The process is identical to what's happening in your body right now. Oxygen molecules are streaming in through microscopic channels.
And where are they going?
They're being pulled toward millions of tiny structures. Mitochondria.
The powerhouse of the cell. That's the one thing everyone remembers from biology class.
It's the one thing that sticks. But think what that means. Plants use chloroplasts to get energy from the sun. Fungi don't have those. They have mitochondria, just like we do. They are performing aerobic respiration.
So they're taking in oxygen.
They use it to burn sugars, glucose, in this very controlled way, and then they release carbon dioxide as waste.
It's literally the exact same process. Oxygen in, CO2 out.
The exact same fundamental chemistry that is keeping your heart beating and letting your brain process these words is happening inside this silent, still fungus on a log.
That is. Wow. It's actually a little honking. You look at a mushroom and think it's just sitting there, but inside, its cells are basically panting, burning fuel.
It connects us. We share a respiratory rhythm with them. We just have different hardware, but the engine is the same.
Okay, so they breathe like us, they eat like us, but this is where I have to play devil's advocate, or maybe plants advocate. They're heterotrophs, they need to eat, but I'd never seen a mushroom take a bite out of anything.
No mouths, no teeth. And this is where fungi really carve out their own unique identity. It's why they're the third kingdom and not just weird animals. We ingest our food.
Right, we put it inside our bodies, and then our stomach and intestines break it down.
Fungi do the exact opposite. They have what scientists call an external stomach.
An external stomach. That sounds like something from a sci-fi movie.
It is a bit sci-fi. Instead of swallowing, fungi secrete their digestive enzymes out into the environment. So, back to that mushroom on the log. If you pressed your hand against the mycelium, that root-like network enzymes are seeping out into the wood.
So it's digesting the log before it eats it.
Exactly. It's dissolving its meal while it's still outside its body. Those enzymes are incredibly powerful. They break down tough stuff like lignin and cellulose, the things that make wood hard, and turn them into a sort of liquid soup.
And then it just soaks it up.
It absorbs the nutrients through its cell walls.
That's incredible. And also a little gross. It's like if I wanted a sandwich, but instead of eating it, I just put my hand on it, and my hand released acid that turned it into a puddle, and then I just sponged it up.
That is a terrifying image, but scientifically, that's spot on. It's called absorptive nutrition.
I try to keep things visual.
It works. And that mechanism is why they're so critical for the planet, because they have this external stomach. They can eat things no one else can touch. We can't digest wood.
Right.
Most bacteria can't even handle lignin, but fungi can. They are the planet's demolition experts.
The ultimate cleanup crew.
They're the global recycling centers. They turn dead trees, dead animals, all of it, back into nutrients that new life can use. Without them, the forest floor would just be a pile of dead wood that never, ever rots.
So life continues because fungi are there to break down death.
Perfectly put. But I want to circle back to that family connection, because the source material used this great analogy, the family tree idea.
Oh, I love this part. It felt like a family drama playing out over a billion years.
It really is. Think of life's ancient, single-celled ancestors as the parents. Then the kids grow up and get different jobs.
Okay, let's meet the siblings.
First, you have the plants. They became the solar engineers. They decided, I'm going to stay put, soak up the sun, and build tall.
A very stable career path. Low risk.
Very. Then you have the animals. They're the consumers, the movers, the hunters, developed complex bodies, eyes, muscles, all to chase down their fuel.
That's us, always on the move.
And then you have the third sibling, fungi. The source described them as the sibling who left home early and built something totally unique. Not a solar engineer, not a hunter, the demolition crew. But, and this is the key, they still shared the bone structure and blood type of the animals.
The text had that great line about a quiet neighbor. You think you have nothing in common, and then you find out you actually grew up in the same house.
It's a perfect metaphor. And it's not a metaphor when you look at the DNA. The language in our genetic code is far closer to theirs than it is to any plants. We branched away from each other millions of years after we both split from the plant lineage.
So, okay, it's established we're cousins, we breathe the same way, we have to eat. But I want to get to the so what of it all. It's a great party fact, but does this kinship actually impact our lives?
It impacts us profoundly. And in medicine, it's actually a really big problem, a double-edged sword.
How so?
Well, think about a bacterial infection like strep throat. bacteria are really, really different from us on a cellular level. So we can design an antibiotic that targets something in the bacteria like its cell wall that our own cells just don't have.
It's an easy target. You can kill the invader without hurting the host.
Exactly. But a fungal infection, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Because their cells are our cousins, because they have that same machinery, the mitochondria, the same protein structures. Curing them is incredibly difficult.
Because anything that's poison to the fungus could also be poison for us.
You're risking friendly fire? Absolutely. An antifungal drug is trying to target a cell that looks an awful lot like our own cells. It's like they're both reading from slightly different versions of the same ancient instruction manual.
That explains so much. I've always heard that systemic fungal infections are so dangerous, but I never knew why. It's not that fungi are just tough, it's that they're too similar to us. We're fighting a reflection.
We are. And that similarity is also why they produce compounds that are so biologically active in our bodies.
Like penicillin, you mean?
Penicillin is the classic example. Fungi evolved antibiotics to fight bacteria. Since we share that enemy and some of the biology, we can borrow their weapons. But it also applies to toxins, even psychedelics. These molecules fit into our cellular receptors because the architecture has common roots.
It's like they have the key to our locks because we used to live in the same house.
That's a brilliant way to put it. And on a much lighter note, it also explains the culinary side.
Ah, yes, the flavor.
You've noticed how a mushroom can feel meatier than, say, a zucchini, right?
Oh, absolutely. You grill a big portobello cap, and it has this savory umami quality that you just don't get from most vegetables.
That's biochemistry. That's not an accident. They have protein and vitamin profiles closer to animals. They contain the amino acids that trigger our umami receptors, the ones that are usually looking for meat.
And we can't forget yeast. That's a fungus, too.
A single-celled fungus, yes, giving us bread and beer. That whole fermentation process is just their animal-like metabolism at work, harnessed for our dinner table.
It's crazy to think that every time we eat a mushroom, our taste buds are kind of recognizing that ancient kinship. They're saying, hey, this isn't a leaf. This is something else.
It really does blur the lines, doesn't it? And that's the philosophical part of this fact. We love to draw these hard lines in nature, us versus them, animal versus plant. And fungi just sit right in the middle, breathing and metabolizing like us, but living in a way we can barely even comprehend.
It makes you question where we end and they begin.
That is the profound question. We give animals consideration because they breathe, they eat, they seem like us, yet here's an entire kingdom that does all of that. They just don't have eyes to look back at us.
And looking forward, this kinship might be key to our future. The research mentioned biotechnology.
Absolutely. Because their metabolism is so close to ours, we're not just harvesting them, we're collaborating with them.
Give me an example. What does that collaboration look like?
Well, their enzymes are designed to break down really tough structures. So scientists are now using them to break down human-made plastics, or using their cellular compounds to fight cancer, because their cells understand cell division in a way that's compatible with ours.
Wow. So they've been solving these incredibly complex chemical problems for millions of years, and because we speak the same basic genetic language, we can finally start translating their solutions to our problems.
The future of medicine and environmental cleanup might just belong to those who finally recognize that these silent organisms are, in a very real sense, family.
It's a huge shift. Instead of seeing a rotting log as just decay, you realize you're looking at a breathing, eating cousin doing the hard work of keeping the whole planet running.
And that raises a final question for everyone to think about. What responsibilities do we have to a kingdom that shares our breath? If they are our quiet, breathing neighbors, maybe it's time we started treating them with a little more respect.
That's a lot to process. From the mitochondria to the external stomachs, fact number 10 really does change how you see the world. That was fact 10. Stay tuned, fact 9 is coming up next. Size and scale are just the beginning. As we move deeper into our list, the data starts to defy logic. Moving right along to fact number 9.
And this one, honestly, this is the one that completely changed how I see a forest. I mean, it reframes a simple walk in the woods.
I am right there with you. Today we're diving into a topic that, it sounds like a clever pun, the Wood Wide Web.
Right, it gets a little chuckle.
But it's actually one of the most rigorously documented and frankly, mind-bending biological realities to come out in the last few decades.
Absolutely. The source material here is, well, it's heavy. We're looking at research that uncovers this invisible infrastructure that makes a forest work. And it turns out trees aren't these solitary figures we've always imagined.
Okay, so to get us started, I want to set the scene for you.
Yeah.
Just Imagine you're standing barefoot on a forest floor.
Hmm.
You know that feeling, right?
Hey.
The ground is soft, it's a bit spongy. You're pressing your toes into that damp layer of humus.
All the rotting leaves, the dark soil.
Yeah,
It feels quiet.
exactly. It feels quiet. And you look around, you see separate tree trunks, an oak over here, a pine over there, maybe a small sapling struggling in the shade. They just look like individuals.
Rugged individuals, yeah, competing for their own little patch of sun.
But that's the illusion. The sources are so clear about this. That's just what we see on the surface. If you could peel back that layer of soil.
oh, that whole sense of solitude it would vanish instantly.
So let's do that. Let's peel it back. What is actually going on down there? Because
Yeah.
I just think of big woody roots.
The roots are just the start. They're like the scaffolding. The real story is this vast, intricate network of fungal threads. It's called mycelium.
And when you say vast,
I mean, I'm not exaggerating. If you took a single teaspoon of healthy forest soil, just 1 teaspoon, it could contain miles of these tiny threads.
wait, miles in a teaspoon.
Miles. It is incredibly dense, and these threads, they're called hyphae, are finer than spider silk. They weave through everything and connect the roots of different trees, different plants into one system.
So it's basically a biological social network.
That's a great way to think about it. The scientific term is a mycorrhizal network,
Myco, fungus.
and rhiza, meaning root. Because the fungus literally fuses with the plant's roots, it grows into them.
But why? I mean, when I think of fungus on a plant, I usually think of disease, something that's killing it.
That's a common thought, but this isn't parasitism. It's a trade, a partnership.
A trade? What are they trading?
Think of the fungi as expert miners. They are brilliant at pulling mineral nutrients, phosphorus, nitrogen, and water out of tiny crevices in the soil that tree roots just can't reach.
Okay, so the fungus is the mining operation. It brings up the raw materials.
Exactly. And in return, the tree, which is basically a giant solar panel, creates sugars through photosynthesis. Fungi can't do that.
So the tree pays the fungus in sugar.
And the fungus pays the tree in minerals and water. It's a perfect economy.
An economy. Okay, 1 to 1.
Well, if it was just 1 to 1, it would be interesting. But this is where it becomes the Wood Wide Web. A single fungus doesn't just connect to one tree.
It connects to more than one.
It connects to dozens, hundreds even. It creates a physical bridge between them, between an oak and a pine and a maple.
So let's visualize this. If the ground beneath my feet suddenly became transparent,
You wouldn't just see roots. You would see this impossibly dense, matted web of white threads weaving the entire forest floor into a single connected fabric.
a fabric. And through that fabric, things can move.
That's the key. Resources don't just move from fungus to tree. They can move from one tree through the fungal wiring to a completely different tree.
That is just wild. It's not a storage unit, it's a transport system.
Or as a circulatory system.
Oh.
And the biology gets even blurrier. If you put your hand on an old tree trunk, deep down in the finest roots, those fungal threads are woven so completely into the tree's tissue.
Yeah.
You literally can't tell where the plant ends and the fungus begins. They're one organism at that level.
Wow. I mean, we're taught from childhood that nature is survival of the fittest. It's tree versus tree. But this sounds cooperative.
Deeply cooperative. But, we have to be careful not to over-romanticize it. It's not just trees holding hands, it's an economy. And it's a really strange one.
How so?
Because the research suggests it operates like a market economy and a socialist commune at the same time.
Okay, you have to explain that. How can it be both? Those seem like opposites.
It's a market because there's trading. Supply and demand. A tree provides sugar, it gets minerals. But the distribution of those resources across the network, that's where it gets socialist.
So the nutrients don't just go to the highest bidder.
No, the flow isn't random. Experiments show that resources flow preferentially to those who need it most.
You're kidding.
Not at all.
Hmm?
Carbon, nitrogen, water, they flow from strong, well-lit trees, the source trees, to shaded or stressed neighbors, the sink trees.
Hold on, so a big healthy Douglas fir that's getting tons of sunlight will actually send food to a little hemlock sapling that's stuck in its shadow.
Exactly. They've tracked this using radioactive isotopes. They tag carbon molecules and watch them move. They've seen phosphorus from decaying leaves get shuttled directly to struggling seedlings.
Why? Why would a Douglas fir help a hemlock? They're competitors. Wouldn't it want the hemlock to just die off?
That's where this idea of the mother tree comes in. The big, old, well-connected trees act as hubs, and they seem to nurture the next generation, even of other species.
What's the incentive, though? Is it altruism?
It's probably a more practical long-term strategy, likely driven by the fungus itself.
The fungus?
Think about it. The fungus benefits from a diverse, stable community of hosts. If it lets all the seedlings die, the forest becomes a monoculture. It's more vulnerable to a single disease or pest that could wipe everything out.
So keeping everyone alive, even the competition.
It strengthens the entire system. A struggling tree might get life-saving carbon without paying it back right away. It's like a social safety net, ensuring the whole community is resilient.
That is incredible. Diversity is literally a survival strategy.
It's the ultimate insurance policy. And it gets even more amazing. The research shows this reciprocity is seasonal.
What do you mean?
So in the summer, a birch tree has all its leaves, it's getting lots of sun. It sends carbon through the network to the fir trees that might be shaded.
Okay.
But in the winter, the birch loses its leaves, it goes dormant. So the evergreen firs, which are still photosynthesizing, send carbon back to the birch to keep it alive.
They pay it back.
They pay it back. They support each other through the tough times.
It really is an internet. But the internet isn't just for moving resources around. It's for communication.
And this is the part that just blows my mind every single time. It's not just a food delivery service. They're sharing information.
I'm not talking.
In a way.
Signaling.
Yeah.
They're transmitting critical data across the network.
Like what? What does one tree need to say to another?
It's usually a warning.
An alarm.
A warning about what?
An attack. Let's say a tree is being eaten by aphids or bored into by beetles. The tree responds to that damage by changing its chemistry. It starts producing defensive compounds to make itself taste bad.
Right, like a standard immune response.
But that chemical signal doesn't stay in the leaves. It travels down into the roots and out into the fungal network.
And it spreads.
It travels through the web to the neighboring trees. And here's the key. The neighbors respond before the pest even gets to them.
No way. So they arm themselves ahead of time.
That's right. The maple tree under attack sends out the alarm. The oak 30 feet away gets the message and starts ramping up its own defensive chemicals. It gets ready for an attack that hasn't even happened yet.
It's a neighborhood watch.
A civil defense system. And it's all done without a brain, without a nervous system. The source describes it so well. It says, if you could hear at a molecular level, you detect this constant chemical murmuring.
A murmuring. That's a great image.
A spruce adjusting its chemistry because of a signal from a sick birch 50 yards away. It's a constant stream of information.
So unlike our internet, which runs on electricity.
This one runs on sunlight and decomposition. And the cables aren't passive fiber optics. They're alive. They metabolize. They make decisions about what to share and with whom.
Which brings up a darker question, I guess. If this ancient, delicate network exists.
How fragile is it?
Yeah. We're not exactly known for treading lightly on ecosystems.
No, we're not. And the source material is pretty clear on the impact of things like clear cutting, soil compaction from heavy machinery, the use of fungicides.
Clear cutting. I mean, that obviously removes the trees,
Yeah.
but it must just destroy the web itself.
It severs the cables. When we clear cut a forest, we're not just taking the timber. We are killing a communication network that took centuries, maybe millennia, to build.
Because the fungi need the trees to live.
Exactly. You rip out the hosts, the network starves and dies back.
So what happens when we replant? You see these big plantation forests, they look green.
They look green, but they're often weaker, less resilient. The new trees are, well, they're orphans. They're disconnected. They don't have that old mycelial infrastructure. They don't have the mother trees to support them.
So the replanted forest it's deaf.
Deaf, isolated, and vulnerable. That's the metaphor the researchers use. It looks like a forest, but it doesn't function like one. It's just a collection of lonely individuals.
And tilling soil for farming, that must be like...
It's like taking a shredder to the internet cables. You're just physically ripping that whole network apart.
So the takeaway is that we can't just plant a tree and call it a day. We have to protect the wiring.
We have to protect the wiring. And this is actually starting to shift how land is managed. Foresters are beginning to think less like farmers and more like network engineers.
Network engineers. I like that. So what does that mean practically?
It means leaving some of the big old mother trees standing during a harvest to act as life support for the new seedlings. It means using techniques that don't compact the soil so much. It's about recognizing the soil isn't just dirt, it's the motherboard.
That really is a huge philosophical shift.
It is, and it forces us to redefine what a forest even is.
It's not a collection of trees.
No, it's a vast, communicating superorganism.
A superorganism. like an ant colony or a beehive.
Exactly. If they're sharing food, sharing information, coordinating their defenses, are they really separate individuals? Or are they just nodes in a larger intelligence?
Which raises huge questions about what intelligence even means.
Massive questions. We assume thinking requires a brain, communication requires a nervous system. But this ancient system does it all without any of that. It suggests intelligence can be a distributed property of a network.
It also kind of flips the script on evolution, doesn't it? The whole survival of the fittest idea is all about competition.
It is, and that's not wrong, but it's clearly not the whole story. The Wood Wide Web suggests that maybe the most successful life strategy isn't to dominate alone,
But to connect and cooperate.
to cooperate for mutual survival. The network is stronger than any individual node. The forest figured that out millions of years before we ever thought of the internet.
It just makes you wonder what else is going on right under our feet that we are completely oblivious to.
Oh, absolutely. But just knowing this is here, knowing that when you're walking in the woods, you're walking on top of this breathing, trading, talking entity, it makes the world feel a little less lonely.
It really does. That connection is the default state of nature. We're the ones who build walls.
And it reminds us that the hidden things are often doing the most important work.
Well, I'm never going to look at a mushroom the same way again. It's not just a mushroom.
It's a server in the forest internet.
Love that. Okay, I think we've thoroughly mapped out the underground.
I think we have.
That covers 9. Ready for the next one? Let's head to fact 8. To sustain the wonders we've just described, there has to be a relentless high-speed system working behind the scenes. Let's look at the fact number 8.
For this deep dive, we need to completely leave the mechanics of the day behind. I want to take you into a very specific environment.
Right, I'm strapped in. Set the scene for me.
It is past midnight in the heart of a Brazilian rainforest. Now, when I say dark, I don't mean, city park at night dark.
Right, or like in your backyard.
Exactly. This is sensory deprivation dark. The canopy above you is so thick it blocks out the moon, the stars, everything.
So we're talking about that heavy, suffocating kind of darkness. The kind where you hold your hand, say, 3 inches from your face, and you literally cannot see it.
You literally see nothing. You are effectively blind. Your ears are doing all the work until, that is, you look down.
Okay.
And ahead of you, there's a fallen log rotting on the forest floor. But it's not black. It's glowing.
Glowing? Like how? Like a chemical spill?
Yeah.
Or did someone drop a glow stick?
It's softer than that. It's a continuous sort of eerie green light that's seeping out of the cracks in the bark.
Wow.
And once your eyes adjust to that specific light, you realize it's not just the one log. The whole forest floor is scattered with these ghostly lights. Some are steady, some are pulsing, just a little.
It almost sounds like a reflection of the night sky, but down in the mud.
That's a perfect way to put it. And this is the world of fungal bioluminescence.
I think most people have a reference point for this from movies. Avatar's the classic one with the glowing plants, but we're talking about a real biological function here. This isn't CGI.
Oh, it is very, very real. There are over 70 confirmed species of fungi that produce their own visible light. And you mentioned a chemical spill or fire. That's an important distinction.
Because usually light means heat.
Usually, yeah. Think of a fire or lava or the sun. That's thermal radiation. Heat produces light. Incandescence.
A light bulb is hot, a flame is hot. Simple.
But this is cold light. If you were to kneel down right there in the mud and touch one of these glowing mushrooms, you wouldn't feel a thing.
No warmth at all.
Zero. It just feels like cool, smooth fungal flesh. It's almost 100% efficient. It's just pure chemistry, converting energy directly into photons.
That's the part that always gets me, pure chemistry.
Yeah.
So we're not talking magic, we're not talking electricity. So how does a mushroom, which is basically just a decomposer on a log, how does it turn itself into a lamp?
It's an amazing biological machine, and the recipe is remarkably consistent. To get that glow, the fungus needs 4 distinct things.
Okay, what's in the recipe?
First, you need a molecule called fungal luciferin.
Luciferin, an appropriate name, light bringer.
Precisely, that's your fuel. Then you need the engine.
An enzyme called luciferase.
Okay, fuel and an engine, got it.
Then you need oxygen from the air, and finally just the metabolic energy from the fungus itself to kick the whole thing off.
So it's a 4-part system: the fuel, the engine, oxygen, and its own power source. Think of it like a lock and key. The luciferase enzyme, the engine, it acts on the luciferin, the fuel. And when oxygen is present, it triggers a reaction.
An oxidation reaction.
Exactly. And that reaction excites the molecule, bumps it up to a high energy state, and then as it relaxes back down, it has to release that extra energy. And it does that as a photon of light.
So it's almost like a tiny biological LED.
It really is. And the light is stronger than you'd think. We're not talking about some faint shimmer you have to squint to see.
Really?
Yeah, the source describes an experiment where you can just cup your hands around one of these mushrooms, create a little cave of darkness.
Right.
And the light is strong enough that you can actually see the lines in your palm, the ridges of your own fingerprints.
That's functional light. I mean, you could read by that.
People have read by it, seriously. If your eyes are dark adapted, you can read text illuminated just by a mushroom.
Wow.
But here's a cool nuance. It's not always the mushroom cap itself that glows. In some species, it's the mycelium.
The root structure inside the wood.
Exactly. So you could kick a rotting log open, and the wood itself would look like it was, bleeding light. You'd see these long, glowing veins running through the timber.
That's hauntingly beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the how. It's an enzyme reaction. But in biology, the how is usually the simple part. The why is where it gets messy.
Right. Because nature is, at its heart, an accountant.
An accountant, exactly. Energy's expensive in the wild. You don't just evolve to glow in the dark for fun or for aesthetics.
Yeah.
Nature is stingy. There has to be a return on investment.
That is the big ecological question. Why glow? And the leading hypothesis is advertisement.
Advertisement. For who? It's 2 in the morning in a rainforest.
For the night shift. Think about what else is active then. It's not the birds, not the butterflies. It's teeming with beetles, flies, moths, creatures that navigate by sight in near total darkness.
So the fungus is using light as a beacon.
It's a beacon. The source calls it a living lighthouse, which I like, but I think I prefer the other analogy they use, a neon sign saying open 24 hours.
So it's a lure. But a lure for what?
It's really a transaction. See, the fungus is stuck. It can't move. To reproduce, it needs to get its spores to new food sources, new rotting logs.
And the wind is just too random, I guess.
It works, but an insect is a precision delivery system, a little delivery truck.
Ah, so the insect is the logistics provider.
That's it. The insect sees the green glow. And by the way, that green color is not random. It is specifically tuned to the spectral sensitivity of nocturnal insect eyes.
Of course it is.
They see the glow, they land to check it out, they crawl over the gills, get dusted with spores, the packages, and then fly off to the next light they see.
So it's basically a pollination strategy, but for fungi. Instead of nectar, though, what's in it for the insect? Just the light.
Sometimes the light itself is enough to trigger curiosity. Maybe it's a place to lay eggs. But the key thing is, the fungus gets its genetic material moved from point A to point B. And the source points out this one detail that, for me, just seals the deal.
What's that?
If you look at where the light is brightest on these mushrooms, it's very often the gills.
The underside of the cap. Where the spores are.
Exactly where the spores are produced. So the light isn't just some ambient glow, it's a target. It's targeted evolutionary advertising. It's shouting, land here, the good stuff is right here.
That is incredibly sophisticated. It's like putting a spotlight right on the merchandise.
But as with everything in science, there are competing theories.
I was going to say, usually in evolution, things end up serving more than one purpose.
Correct. So some researchers argue it's a warning signal, a pessimism. Like how a bright red frog signals, I'm poisonous. A glowing mushroom might be telling grazers, I'm toxic, don't eat me.
That makes perfect sense. Stay away is just as useful a message as come here, depending on who you're talking to.
And there's an even more fundamental theory, one that goes into the origins of the trait itself. It's about something called oxidative stress.
That's basically cellular rust, right? The damage from oxygen metabolism.
In a way, yeah. So some researchers think that bioluminescence might have just evolved to burn off excess oxygen that was damaging the fungus. The light wasn't a signal at all. It was just a waste product.
Wait, you're saying the glow was just the exhaust pipe?
It could have started that way, just a happy accident. But then evolution is opportunistic. It works with what it has. So if you have a fungus that glows to protect itself, and that glow happens to attract beetles that spread its spores...
Suddenly that trait becomes doubly valuable.
Yeah.
That's exaptation, turning your trash into treasure.
Precisely. And that brings us to the modern era, because humans have this habit of looking at nature's tricks and asking, how can I use that?
We want to steal a fire.
They want to steal the cold fire. We're now in the realm of synthetic biology. The logic is simple, but incredibly ambitious. If a fungus can produce light without electricity, just using its own metabolism, Why can't a plant do it?
Why can't a tree do it? You mean splicing the fungal DNA right into a plant's genome?
Yes, and scientists have already done it. They've successfully transferred the genes for this whole glowing process into plants like tobacco. They've created plants that glow autonomously, and that's the key word, autonomously.
Meaning you don't have to spray them with chemicals or shine a UV light on them?
Nothing. They just grow and glow. As long as they're alive and metabolizing, they emit a soft light.
Okay, but let's be practical. Are we talking about a faint little nightlight for a kid's room or something?
Real. Because if I replace my desk lamp with a glowing fern, I need to actually see what I'm doing.
And that's the current hurdle. The source mentions we have plants bright enough to read by, but you'd have to be right up close. The vision here, though, it's massive. They aren't just thinking about glowing houseplants,
Streetlights.
living street lights. Imagine walking down a city street in, say, 2050. There are no overhead electric lamps buzzing away. The street is just lined with genetically modified trees that emit a steady, useful luminescence.
That's the Avatar aesthetic brought to downtown. It sounds incredible, doesn't it? It could solve a huge part of the energy crisis. No electricity bill for lighting, no carbon footprint, just biology doing its thing.
It sounds almost too good to be true.
And there are other applications too. Think about smart crops. Imagine a field of corn engineered to start glowing when it's thirsty.
So the farmer doesn't need soil sensors or anything like that?
The plant is the sensor. The farmer just looks out at the fields at night. If it's dark, all good. If the south field is glowing, it means those plants are dehydrated or maybe under attack by pests. The plant communicates its own stress visually.
That is brilliant. It's a visual dashboard for agriculture. You're literally shedding light on the problem.
It is brilliant, but...
There it is, the but. I was waiting for it. Whenever we try to rewrite nature's code like this, there are always unintended consequences. We see a free streetlight. What does the ecosystem see?
That is the critical question. The source calls it the disruption of ancient contracts.
That's a heavy phrase. Unpack that for me.
Think back to that rainforest. That glow isn't just decoration, it's a language. It's a specific signal tuned over millions of years to talk to specific insects. I am here, come help me. It's a contract.
And if we suddenly make everything glow?
We're jamming the signal. If you plant glowing trees all over a city, or worse, near a forest, you're creating a kind of biological light pollution. You're flooding the channel with noise.
So the moths and beetles who rely on those specific cues from the fungi, they get confused.
Utterly confused or completely derailed. We might attract millions of insects to their deaths in cities, distracting them from the actual fungi and plants they're supposed to be interacting with. We are borrowing words from a very old language that we are not yet fluent in.
It's different from normal light pollution, isn't it? An LED street lamp is bad for moths, sure. But mimicking their specific biological triggers, the exact color, the chemical signature, that seems way more invasive.
It is. It's using their own biology against them. The source talks about this chemical dialogue between kingdoms. And if we appropriate that grammar for our own convenience, just so we can see the sidewalk, we might inadvertently collapse the local food webs that depend on that delicate balance.
It's the arrogance of the engineer in a way. We see a function, it makes light, and we strip it of its context. We forget the light is there for a reason.
And we lose something aesthetic, too. The beauty of these forests is described as an ethereal radiance. It relies on contrast, on the mystery of the dark. If we turn the whole night into a bioluminescent theme park, we lose the magic that drew us to it in the first place.
It brings up a deeper point about our relationship with darkness, doesn't it? We seem almost terrified of it. We want to light up every corner of the planet.
We do, and bioluminescence offers this way to do it naturally, but it's still an imposition. It's still turning night into a kind of day.
So on one hand, you have sustainable, grid-free lighting, which is a holy grail for the climate. On the other, we have to ask if the moths get a vote.
I think the takeaway is that we can pursue this, but we have to move with extreme caution. We're editing a very complex manuscript here, not writing on a blank page. You can't just cut and paste genes without reading the surrounding text.
That image of the living lighthouse really sticks with me. A lighthouse is only useful because it's the only bright point in a vast darkness. If the whole coast is lit up like a Christmas tree, ships just crash.
A perfect analogy. If everything is a signal, then nothing is a signal.
Well, this has definitely shed some light pun, absolutely intended on what's happening out there in the dark. It's amazing to think that while we're sleeping, there's this coal, chemical fire burning in the woods, just keeping the cycle of life moving.
And it's all happening silently, fueled by oxygen and enzymes, connecting the world of fungi to the world of animals. in a way we're only just beginning to understand.
That covers 80 points. Ready for the next one?
Let's head to fact 7.
Welcome back. We're diving into a hidden architecture that most people never even realize exists. This is fact number 7.
And this one, I have to say, this is one of those facts that really, it gets under your skin. It changes how you see, simple walk in the woods.
It really does. It's a story about control, but a kind of control that's so precise, so alien, it's hard to wrap your head around. So let's just, for a moment, let's go there. I want you to imagine you're deep in a rainforest, maybe Thailand, maybe Brazil.
Right. And it's humid. You can feel the moisture in the air.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're looking down at the forest floor, and there it is, a column of ants. A perfect, ordered highway of thousands of individuals working as one. It's like a machine.
Total order, until it's not.
Right, then you see it. One ant. Just one.
Yeah.
And it's wrong.
It's stumbling.
Yeah, it's twitching, falling off a twig. It looks almost, drunk. It's completely broken formation.
And that ant isn't just sick, it's being piloted. What you're looking at is a victim of Ophiocordyceps, the zombie ant fungus.
Okay, and that word zombie, it brings up all these pop culture images, right? Flesh-eating monster.
Verilous rage.
But this is so much more sophisticated. This isn't a virus that makes you violent. It's a hostile takeover of a living machine.
A hijacking. That's a much better way to put it. It's not chaos, it's calculated. It's biological engineering.
So let's get into that engineering. The infection doesn't even start with a bite. It starts from the air.
It's literally atmospheric. A single spore, totally microscopic, drifts down from a leaf high above, and it lands on an unsuspecting ant on that highway.
And it has to be the right ant, doesn't it? It can't just be any insect.
No, and that's the first bit of incredible precision. This is a lock-and key system. The spore has receptors that can tell if it's landed on, say, a carpenter ant versus a bullet ant or a beetle.
It knows its target.
It knows its home,
Yeah.
And when it recognizes that target, it terminates. It releases enzymes that they basically soften the ant's hard exoskeleton, the cuticle.
It's melting its way through the armor.
It's melting a hole, and then it uses physical pressure to just punch its way inside. The castle has been breached.
Now, once a pathogen is inside, you'd expect the immune system to just go haywire.
It should, but the fungus is clever. It goes into stealth mode. It spreads through the ant's body as single cells, just floating in the hemolymph, which is kind of like ant blood.
And it's replicating.
It is, but, and this is the crucial part, it doesn't kill the host. Not yet. A dead ant is useless to it at this stage.
Right. It needs a ride.
It needs a vehicle to get to a very specific destination. So it starts consuming the ant from the inside, but only the non-essential parts, the fat bodies, things like that. It carefully avoids the vital organs.
It's like it's stripping a car for parts, but leaving the engine and the steering wheel intact.
Perfect analogy. And while it's doing that, it's building a network inside the ant. Now, we used to think it must go for the brain, right? Mind control must mean brain control.
That's the logical assumption.
Yeah, but the latest research with these incredible 3D scans shows something almost more disturbing. The fungus doesn't invade the brain. It leaves the brain intact.
Wait, what?
It grows around the muscle fibers. It creates this interconnected fungal network, a mesh that encases the muscles all throughout the ant's body and legs.
So it's not whispering suggestions to the brain, it's physically grabbing the puppet strings.
It's cut the puppet strings from the brain and attached its own. It releases chemicals that jam the signals from the ant's brain to its muscles, and then the fungal network makes the muscles contract directly.
That is horrifying. That means it's a prisoner in its own body. It might be aware, but it can't control its own limbs.
It's a complete decoupling of intent from action. The brain is screaming, "Go back to the nest," but the body is obeying the fungus.
And that's when you see that stumbling, drunken behavior.
Exactly. The ant is now in a trance. It stops communicating. It stops cleaning itself. And then the fungus issues a new command, a behavior totally alien to the ant. The climb. It's compelled to leave the safety of the forest floor and just start climbing up. A blade of grass, a sapling, anything.
But this isn't just a random climb, is it? This is where the science gets just mind-bending.
Oh, this is the Goldilocks zone. See, if the ant dies on the ground, the fungus fails. If it climbs too high into the canopy, the sun and wind will kill the fungus. It needs a very, very specific microclimate.
So it's looking for something.
And the data shows it finds it. The infected ants almost always stop at a height of about 25 centimeters off the ground.
25 centimeters. Not 20, not 30, That is stunningly precise.
And there's more. They usually clamp onto the underside of a leaf, often on the north-facing side of the plant.
Okay, stop. How? How does a fungus with no eyes, no brain, no nervous system navigate its stolen vehicle to those exact coordinates?
It's hijacking the ant's senses. The fungus itself can't see, but the ant can. It can sense light, humidity, temperature. The fungus just drives the ant around until the sensory input matches its internal programming.
So it's like a heat-seeking missile, but for humidity.
Exactly. Humidity at 95%. Check. Temperature at 25 degrees Celsius. Check. Light levels just right. Check. And when all those conditions are met, usually around solar noon,
The final command.
it triggers the death cup. The fungus floods the muscles around the mandibles, forcing them to contract with a power the ant couldn't normally generate. It bites down on a leaf vein,
Locks on.
and then instantly the fungus destroys those muscles, atrophies them, so the jaw is locked shut permanently. The ant is now a fixture. It's part of the plant.
And at that point, the ant is it dead?
That is the moment of death. Its purpose as a vehicle is over. The fungus finishes the job, kills its host, and then it gets to work.
The second act begins.
Right. The ant is now just a nutrient-filled capsule. The fungus consumes everything else inside, reinforcing the exoskeleton, and then a few days later, you see it,
Macabre periscope.
a stalk erupts, usually right from the back of the ant's head. It grows out, and on the tip is the fruiting body, the payload.
And because of that 25-centimeter climb, it's in the perfect position.
Perfectly positioned over the ant highway below. The fruiting body bursts, and it rains spores down onto a kill zone of about a square meter.
Right onto its former nestmate.
Right onto its own sisters. The fungus turns the ant into a weapon against its own family. The cycle begins again.
It's just ruthless efficiency. So my question is, with a system this perfect, why aren't all the ants zombies? Why hasn't this just wiped them out?
Because it's an arms race. The ants have been fighting this for millions of years. They evolved defenses. It's something called social immunity.
The colony fights back.
As a whole organism, the ants are constantly grooming each other. If they detect a spore on a nestmate, they'll clean it off before it can dig in.
But what if it's too late? What if one starts acting weird, stumbling?
Then the colony's response is brutal. We talk about social distancing, but ants are the masters. If the guard ants see an infected individual, they will physically grab it, carry it far, far away from the colony, and dump it.
A forced quarantine.
Or an execution. They'll kill it to prevent the fungus from ever reaching that spore-releasing stage. They sacrifice the one to save the many.
Which explains why the fungus has to be so stealthy at the beginning. If it shows its hand too early, the ant just gets taken out.
It's a constant back and forth. And that's also why these fungi are so specialized. You know, the fungus that infects one species of ant in Brazil has evolved the specific chemical keys for that ant's neurology. It won't work on another species.
It's a custom-made lockpick, not a skeleton key.
Precisely.
You know, the biology is one thing, but the implications of this they're really unsettling when you start to think
They
about it.
are, because it forces you to ask some really fundamental questions about what drives behavior.
Right. We operate on the assumption of agency, free will. An ant chooses to follow the trail. But this fungus proves that choice is just chemistry, and that chemistry can be hacked.
It completely blurs the line between influence and domination. If a brainless organism can use a simple molecule to rewrite an animal's most fundamental instincts, survival, community, everything, what does that say about our own choices?
It says that the mind isn't this magical, separate thing. It's part of the machine. And if you know which levers to pull in the machine,
You can change the output. The zombie ant is proof that all behavior, ours included, is mediated by neurochemistry. It can be hijacked.
and we're just now, with our own science, starting to learn the language that this fungus mastered millions of years ago.
We absolutely are. Look at pharmacology. We develop drugs to alter mood, to manage anxiety, to improve focus. We are learning how to speak that same chemical language.
Our intentions are different. Obviously, we're aiming for healing, but the mechanism.
The mechanism is scarily similar. We're intervening in a chemical system to change behavior. The zombie ant just shows you the most extreme version of that.
It really makes you wonder about the line between healing and hijacking. And what about the ant's experience? Is it aware? Is it trapped in there, watching its body betray it?
That's the most haunting question, isn't it? And the scariest answer is probably not. The fungus is likely so good at what it does that the ant doesn't feel hijacked.
It thinks it wants to climb the leaf.
Exactly. The brain's job is to make sense of the body's actions. So if the body is climbing, the brain likely rationalizes it. I feel a sudden urge to climb. Biting this leaf seems like a fantastic idea right now. It feels like free will, even when there is none.
Well, that's a thought that's going to stick with me. This idea that a simple organism, just a network of fungal threads, can outsmart a brain.
It's a profound lesson from nature. Intelligence isn't always about having a big, complex brain. Sometimes it's about mastering a single, perfect chemical key.
It's humbling.
It really is.
It reminds you that the world is just filled with these hidden, complex systems running all around us.
Waiting for the right conditions.
Waiting for noon. Well, on that note, I think we'll leave the rainforest for now.
Yeah, probably a good idea. Just watch where you're walking.
Will do.
Yeah.
That covers 7. Ready for the next one? Let's hit to fact 6.
We've looked at the map. Now let's look at the engine's power source. This next revelation sounds more like science fiction than reality. Shifting gears to fact number 6.
And honestly, if you told me this, say, 10 years ago, that one of the best solutions for our plastic problem would come from a petri dish, I mean, I would have been really skeptical.
Right.
But here we are, we're talking about the plastic eaters.
Which is such a great title. It sounds like a 1950s B-movie, you know? The blob that ate the landfill.
It does.
But this isn't some alien or a monster from a radioactive swamp. We're talking about something way more common.
Much more common. And usually a lot more annoying if you're a homeowner. We're talking about fungi.
Fungi.
Specifically, certain strains that have, well, figured out that synthetic polyurethane, the stuff we designed to be indestructible,
Right.
is actually a pretty good meal.
Okay, let's set the scene. Because fungi eating plastic is one of those headlines I feel like I see every now and then, and it always feels a little like hype.
It can.
But the source material for this deep dive, it paints a very specific picture. Can you walk us through what's actually happening in the lab?
Sure. So imagine a standard glass petri dish in a lab. On one side, you put a little square foam rubber.
Okay.
This is your classic polyurethane. It's the same material as probably in your sofa, the insulation in your walls, maybe even the soles of your shoes.
Right, the famously immortal stuff, the kind of thing that if I bury it, it'll still be there in 1,000 years.
Exactly. The immortal trash paradox. We built this stuff specifically to resist breaking down. It's designed to fight off water, microbes, everything. But in this petri dish, on the other side, you introduce a fungal colony. The sources mention strains like Aspergillus or Penicillium.
Which to most of us just looks like white fuzz, you know, bread mold.
Right, just like a frost spreading across the dish. And normally, in a fight between plastic and biology, the plastic always wins.
It wins by just sitting there.
It just sits there. The biology stars, the plastic remains. But here, something else happens. The fungal threads, the mycelium, they start to reach out, they touch the foam, and they start to digest it.
Digest is doing a lot of work there. I really want to get into the mechanics of that. How does a fungus actually eat something synthetic? Fungi don't have stomachs.
Well, in a way they do. Their stomach is just on the outside. This gets into some basic fungal biology. Fungi are heterotrophs.
Heterotrophs, break that down for us.
It just means they have to eat other things for energy. Plants make their own food, right? They're autotrophs.
Oh.
But we, and fungi, we have to find carbon that's already out there. And for millions of years, fungi have been the best in the world at breaking down really complex natural polymers.
Like wood, lignin, and cellulose.
Exactly. When a tree falls, the fungus is the cleanup crew. Without them, we'd be, buried under miles of dead trees.
Okay, so they're recyclers.
The best. And here's the key part that I think most people miss. Lignin, the stuff that makes wood so tough, is actually incredibly chemically similar to some plastics.
Oh, interesting.
It's a messy, complex, durable polymer chain. So evolution has already spent eons creating a toolkit in fungi to crack that exact kind of code.
So it's not like the fungus learned to eat plastic from scratch. It's more like it had a key for the wood lock that just happened to fit the plastic lock too.
That's a great way to put it. It's a theory called exaptation. A trait for one purpose gets co-opted for another. The fungus, it secretes these enzymes out into its environment.
And these are the molecular scissors.
Exactly. Think of them as molecular scissors. Let's drill down on what's happening at the chemical level. Plastic is just a long chain of carbon atoms locked together, like a chain link fence.
Right, super strong.
Super strong. Polyurethane is made of these long, really durable polymer chains. So the fungus releases its enzymes, esterases, amidases, and they land on the plastic. They kick off a chemical reaction.
In English.
They basically force water or oxygen into the bonds that hold that chain together.
Okay, so they're like bolt cutters on that chain link fence.
Perfect analogy. Snip. A long chain becomes a shorter one. then another snip.
Mm.
Eventually, the pieces are small enough, monomers, oligomers, that the fungus can actually pull them through its cell wall.
So it breaks the house down into bricks and then pulls the bricks inside for fuel.
That's it. And once it's inside, it's just food. To the fungus, that shoe sole isn't pollution. It's not a mistake. It's just a carbon source. It's lunch.
That is wild. It's like finding an animal that looks at a brick wall and just sees a buffet. But I have to play devil's advocate. We hear about bacteria or mealworms eating plastic, but when you dig in, it's always agonizingly slow.
Yeah.
Like a tiny amount over a whole year. Is this actually efficient, or is it just a cool thing that happens in a lab?
That is the critical question. And the source material really highlights the difference in speed. It's staggering.
How staggering.
If you leave polyurethane out in the environment just with sun and rain and weathering, you're looking at close to a century for it to degrade. And even then, it's mostly just breaking into smaller pieces.
Right, it's not actually going away, it's just becoming invisible litter.
Precisely. It's fragmentation, not true degradation. But with these fungal enzymes in the lab, they are seeing measurable weight loss, structural collapse in a matter of weeks or months.
Weeks!
Weeks. We are talking about going from a timeline of generations to financial quarters.
Wow. Weeks versus a century. That's a massive leap. It really just shows how adaptable biology is. We invent this stuff less than 100 years ago, and nature is already figuring out how to pick the lock.
It's humbling, isn't it? We think we're building these artificial islands of plastic separate from nature, but nature is relentless. It just sees all that energy locked in those chemical bonds and says, hey, I can use that.
But, and there's always a but, we're still talking about a petri dish. A petri dish is perfect, it's warm, it's human, no competition.
It's a fungal utopia.
How do we get from a little fuzzy patch in a lab to actually dealing with the 400 million tons of plastic we make every year?
That is the scaling challenge. And this is where we shift from biology to hard engineering.
Right.
Because you can't just sprinkle some spores on a landfill and walk away.
Right.
The sources describe what they call an industrial bioreactor.
I hear that term a lot. Bioreactor. What does that actually look like? Are we talking about a giant tank?
Pretty much. Forget the petri dish. Imagine a stainless steel tank the size of a warehouse. Inside, everything is perfectly controlled. Temperature, pH, oxygen levels, all of it.
So it's basically a spa for mold.
A very aggressive spa.
Yeah.
And inside this tank, you have a slurry. You take shredded plastic, waste old car parts, insulation, packing peanuts, and you mix it all up with the fungal cultures.
Sounds lovely.
It's probably the grossest soup imaginable, but it's a biological powerhouse. It's a demolition crew working around the clock. Billions of fungal threads all attacking those bonds at the same time.
And the goal isn't just to break it down a bit. You want to completely erase it.
The goal is mineralization. That's the key term. Because if you just make small bits of plastic, you've actually failed. You've just made microplastics.
Right, which might be worse.
Arguably, yes. Yeah. So the goal of the bioreactor is to drive the whole process to its final end products.
Which are what? If the fungus eats a shoe, what comes out the other end?
Ideally, carbon dioxide, water, and biomass.
Biomass being more fungus.
Yeah. Dead fungal cells, proteins, organic sludge. Basically compost.
You put a shredded car dashboard in one side and you get compost out the other? That sounds almost too good to be true.
It's the dream scenario.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a split in the research here. Some scientists think using the live fungus is too messy. You know, it's a living thing. It can get sick, contaminated.
Sure.
So some want to just bypass the organism altogether.
Just use the scissors without the worker holding them.
Exactly. Isolate and purify just the enzymes.
Yeah.
You harvest the liquid the fungus makes, concentrate it, and then you pour that on the plastic. No need to keep a fungus happy, you just run a chemical reaction.
That does sound cleaner. Almost like an industrial detergent or something.
It is. And it might be easier to scale up. But whether you use the live mold or just the enzyme juice, the promise is the same. A biological key for a synthetic lock.
Okay, so we have problem plastic everywhere. We have a potential solution, nature's molecular scissors. Why isn't there a bioreactor at my local dump right now? Why aren't we doing this everywhere?
Well, this brings us to the risks. Because when you create an organism that eats modern infrastructure, you have to ask a pretty terrifying question.
What happens if it escapes?
What happens if it escapes?
The Jurassic Park moment. Life finds a way.
It really is. Think about how much of our world is built with polyurethane. It's in the insulation in our attics. It's the foam in our car seats. It's used to seal floors, in electronics, medical devices. It's everywhere.
Right, it's literally the stuff holding parts of my house together.
Now imagine, You've bred a super fungus in one of these reactors. You've selected for the fastest, most aggressive plastic eaters. You've optimized them. And then, a vent fails. Or a worker carries some spores out on their boots.
And that fungus finds its way into the wall of my house.
And the fungus doesn't know the difference between waste plastic in a tank and valuable insulation in your attic. It just sees food.
That's a disaster movie. The mold that ate suburbia, you'd have shoes rotting off people's feet.
Wiring insulation in cars could dissolve. It's a huge containment issue. This isn't like making compost. You're dealing with something that attacks the structural integrity of the modern world.
So the idea of just, I don't know, dumping these spores into the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, that's a non-starter.
Most experts would say absolutely not. Not only for the infrastructure risk, but for another reason that might be even worse for the environment.
Worse than my house dissolving.
Incomplete digestion. We touched on it earlier.
The microplastic problem?
Right. What if the fungus in the wild isn't that efficient? What if it starts eating a plastic bottle, breaks it into a billion tiny pieces, and then dies because it gets too cold or too dry?
Then you've just taken one big piece of trash we could have picked up and turned it into a billion invisible particles that are going to get into the food chain.
Exactly. You've just massively accelerated the creation of microplastics. And that's a much harder problem to solve. So if you don't finish the job, if you don't get full mineralization, you might actually be making the pollution problem worse.
That's a really sobering thought. This isn't a magic wand. It's more like nuclear power. Huge potential, but if it leaks, it's a catastrophe.
That's a fair comparison. It's a high-maintenance tool. And that brings us to the philosophical part of this, what the source material calls the moral hazard.
I found this part fascinating. It's the psychology behind the solution.
It's the responsibility angle. The argument goes like this. If we tell everyone, hey, don't worry about plastic anymore, we found a fungus that eats it.
Right.
What happens?
We stop feeling guilty. We buy the plastic water bottle because, oh, it's fine, the fungus will get it. We stop pushing for better solutions.
Precisely. It becomes the let nature handle it excuse. And it's so seductive, that logic. We see nature dealing with fallen leaves, so we want to believe we can just toss our synthetic trash into that same cycle. It lets us off the hook.
But the source makes such a good point. Leaves evolve to fall and rot. We specifically designed plastic not to.
Exactly. We engineered it to defy decay. So asking fungi to solve a problem we created in, 70 or 80 years? When it took them millions of years just to master wood? It's a huge ask. The source compared it to passing your homework to someone else.
Here you go, fungi. You figure it out. We're just going to keep making 400 million more tons of it every year. Good luck.
It feels lazy. And it's dangerous because the sheer volume is overwhelming. Even if these bioreactors are amazing, are they 400 million tons a year? Amazing. Probably not.
It's a capacity mismatch. We can make plastic way faster than any mold can eat it.
Right. So if we use this amazing discovery as an excuse to just keep producing single-use plastics, we still drown. The fungus can help us with the legacy waste, the stuff that's already out there, but it can't keep up with the running tap.
So it's not a get-out-of-jail-free card?
Not at all. It proves that biology is incredibly resilient and adaptive. But we have to see these fungi as just one tool in a much bigger toolbox. We still have to reduce, we still have to reuse, we still have to design better materials.
It is so humbling, though, isn't it? We spent a century mastering chemistry to create these wonder materials, patting ourselves on the back, and then nature just quietly evolves a little enzyme that says, nice try, snip.
It is. It's a reminder that we are not separate from the biological world. We build these synthetic fortresses, but biology is always lapping at the shores, looking for a way to get that carbon back.
Okay, so stepping back, what's the big takeaway for you? Why should someone listening care about some fuzz in a petri dish?
I think it matters because it changes the narrative. We get so much doom and gloom about the environment. This shows that solutions exist. They're in nature's library. We just have to be smart and responsible in how we use them. It connects the microscopic world to a global crisis.
And it makes you look at mold differently. I mean, usually mold is the enemy. It's gross. This kind of reframes it as a potential ally.
An ally with a very, very specific appetite.
Next time I see some mold on old bread, I'll give it a little nod of respect. Its cousin might be eating an old car bumper somewhere.
Or your old sneakers.
Or my old sneakers. Hopefully not while I'm still wearing them. That image is, that's going to stick with me.
I think the real takeaway is that nature keeps trying to restore balance. Even when we push it to the absolute limit, life adapts. The question is, are we going to use that adaptation to help us build a cleaner world or as an excuse to keep making a mess?
Are we partners with the fungus, or are we just messy roommates hoping it will finally do the dishes?
Right now, I think we're the messy roommates. But the science shows we could be partners. If we build the bioreactors and manage the risk and integrate this into a truly circular economy, then we're working with nature's demolition crew.
And that's a much better future, one where a landfill isn't an endpoint, but a feeding trough.
Exactly, turning a crisis into a meal.
A meal of polyurethane foam. Delicious.
To an aspergillus fungus, it's a feast.
Well, on that note, I think we have thoroughly digested fact number 6. From molecular scissors to the moral hazard of it all.
It's amazing what's hiding in a single petri dish.
It really is. Nature is always surprising. That covers 6. Ready for the next one? Let's head to fact 5.
Welcome back. We are moving right along in our countdown. Let's dive into fact number 5.
So for this deep dive, we have a very specific mission.
Okay.
We're going to travel back in time. And I don't mean just, back to the Romans or the pyramids. We are going back into deep time.
Right.
400 million years ago to solve a biological mystery that, by all conventional logic, just shouldn't have been solvable.
And just to set the expectations here, when we say 400 million years ago, we aren't talking about a T-Rex or, lush jungles yet. This isn't Jurassic Park.
No, not even close. We are talking about a time before soil existed.
That is a concept I struggle to even wrap my head around. A world without dirt.
Right.
It sounds like a contradiction in terms.
It does, doesn't it? But that is the setting. And the mystery we're looking at is, how did life conquer the land? Because the green world we see today, the forests, the crops, the gardens, it only exists because of a secret contract.
A contract.
Signed hundreds of millions of years ago between two completely different kingdoms of life.
The sources call this a partnership that literally saved the world, or at least, created the world as we know it. They suggest that without this specific deal, Earth would probably still be a barren rock.
That's not hyperbole. To understand the gravity of this, we need to do a little visualization exercise. I need you to just strip away everything you know about the outdoors.
Okay, I'm clearing the mental slate. No trees, no grass, no squirrels. Where are we standing?
Imagine you are standing on the edge of an ancient continent, early Devonian period. You look out at the horizon, what do you see?
Based on the research I'm seeing, gray. Just endless, flat, gray stone.
Correct. It is a landscape of solid rock granite, silica stretching as far as the eye can see. There's no brown earth. There's no humus, no loam, no organic matter to sink your toes into. Just rock.
Just baking under the sun.
Exactly, baking under the sun. And it's not a pleasant beach vacation either. The sources describe the sun as unfiltered.
Right. There are no trees, so there's no shade anywhere.
And the wind. It's howling across the stone, but it carries only sharp mineral dust. There's no pollen, no seeds, no spores of complex life.
It sounds more like the surface of Mars than the Earth.
That is a very apt comparison. The continents were essentially a planetary wasteland, and into this hostile, dry, baking environment, our protagonists arrive. The early land plants.
But calling them plants feels almost generous compared to what we have today, right? We aren't talking about oak trees or even ferns yet.
No. These were tiny organisms. Imagine a thin green film, or maybe a simple moss-like organism clinging desperately to a crack in the rock where a little bit of rainwater pooled.
And here is the logical problem that jumps out at me immediately. I'm looking at the biological requirements here. If you're a plant, you need two things to survive.
Yep.
You need sunlight, and you need nutrients. Water, phosphorus, nitrogen.
Correct.
In the ocean, where these plants came from, nutrients are easy. They just float around you. You absorb them through your cell walls. But on land?
On land, they're locked inside solid rock. And these early plants, they didn't have roots.
None at all.
They did not. They lacked true roots entirely. They were what we called photosynthetic pioneers. They had the ability to use sunlight, but they were sitting on top of a sealed vault of minerals with no key.
So let's unpack the mechanics of starvation here. If you are a plant on a slab of granite and you don't have roots to drill down, how do you not just dry out and die within 20 minutes?
That is the paradox. They had no way to extract nutrients from solid stone, and they couldn't reach any deep moisture. By all biological logic, this colonization attempt should have failed.
The land should have remained barren.
The plants should have withered, and the continent should have just stayed gray.
But obviously it didn't, because here we are recording this. So what was the trick?
The trick was that they didn't do it alone. The reveal here, the twist in the movie, is that the plants had a partner.
Okay.
Fungi.
Fungi, like
Yeah.
mushrooms.
Well, the ancestors of mushrooms. And here's where it gets really fascinating. The research indicates that fungi had actually colonized the land before plants.
Really? I always assumed fungi came later to eat dead stuff.
Yeah.
The decomposers.
That's the common misconception. But fungi are masters of extraction. They are chemically aggressive. They were likely already there, huddled in crevices, adapted to breaking down tough materials.
So when these primitive, starving plants showed up,
They formed a partnership.
this is the secret contract we teased.
Precisely. We call it a mycorrhizal relationship. The fungal threads, which are called hyphae, acted as the plant's extended root system.
Hold on, define hyphae for me. What does that look like?
Think of a spider web, but incredibly dense and microscopic. These fungal threads are much, much finer than even the smallest plant root hair. We're talking about tubes that are only a single cell wide.
So they can squeeze into places plants can't.
Exactly. Because they're so fine, they could penetrate microscopic cracks in the rock that plant tissues couldn't touch. But it's not just physical, they use chemistry. They secrete organic acids and enzymes that literally dissolve the rock.
They were mining the rock.
They were chemically mining the rock for phosphorus, nitrogen, and other essential nutrients. And because they cover such a huge surface area, they were scavenging for microscopic amounts of moisture in the deepest crevices.
Okay, so the fungi are doing all this heavy lifting. They're gathering water, they're mining phosphorus. What's in it for them? Why help the plants? Evolution isn't a charity.
No, it is strictly transactional. The fungi had a problem too. They can mine, but they can't cook.
Meaning?
Fungi cannot photosynthesize. They can't create their own energy from the sun.
But the plants can.
The plants are solar powerhouses. They take sunlight and CO2 and turn it into sugar, high-energy carbohydrates. So the deal was simple.
The ultimate trade deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The fungi provide the water and minerals mined from the rock, and in exchange, the plants provide the sugar. You give me the raw materials, I give you the battery power.
It is. And the source material uses an analogy here that I think is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
It compares this partnership to two astronauts landing on a hostile planet.
Oh, I loved this part. Let's walk through this because it really made the concept click.
Okay, so imagine you have two astronauts landing on Mars. Let's call them Astronaut A and Astronaut B.
Right.
Astronaut A is our plant.
Right. Astronaut A has incredible solar panels, state-of-the-art. They can generate unlimited energy from the sun. They have power to spare, but they have no tools to get resources.
They can't get water, can't get minerals out of the Martian rock. They just have batteries.
So they have full power, but they're gonna starve or dehydrate because they can't eat sunlight.
Right.
Exactly. Now look at Astronaut B, our fungus.
Okay.
Astronaut B has no solar panels, zero power generation, but they have incredible industrial mining equipment. They have molecular drills that can crack stone and extract rare elements.
Without power, the drills don't work.
Precisely. Separately, on this hostile surface, both astronauts die. Astronaut A dries out, Astronaut B runs out of energy. It's a failed mission.
But if they plug the solar panels into the drill,
Together, they terraform the planet. That is exactly what happened 400 million years ago. It wasn't one organism conquering the land.
it was two kingdoms of life.
Two different kingdoms hooking their systems together to build a life support system.
It changes the whole narrative. We usually think of plants as the heroes who green the earth, but really it was a coalition.
It was a strict symbiosis. And I want to be clear about the evidence here, because usually when we talk about behavior 400 billion years ago, it sounds like guesswork.
Right.
But we aren't just guessing this happened.
Let's talk about that. How do we know this? Because soft tissue like fungus, I mean, that doesn't usually fossilize well. How do we have proof of a handshake from that long ago?
We got incredibly lucky. There is a specific fossil site in Scotland called the Rainy Chert. It is world famous among paleontologists because the preservation is just stunning. It's essentially a snapshot of an early ecosystem frozen in silica.
So you can look at microscopic fossils that are 400 million years old.
You can. And when you look at the cross-sections of these ancient plant stems under a microscope, what do you see? You see structures that look exactly like intertwined plant and fungal tissues. You can see the fungal hyphae penetrating the plant cells.
You can actually see the connection
You
point.
can see the interface. These structures closely resemble modern mycorrhiza. That's the technical term for this fungus root partnership. And it's not just the visual shape. We can detect chemical signatures in these fossils that prove they were exchanging nutrients.
That is wild. It's like finding a receipt for a transaction that happened during the Devonian period.
And if that wasn't enough, if we fast forward to today, the modern science backs this up even further with genetic analysis.
This is where we look at the DNA.
Yes. When we look at the genomes of plants and fungi, and we use molecular clocks to trace their evolution back, we see that they share evolutionary milestones from this exact period. But it gets even more specific. Plants have specific genes, we've identified them, that are crucial for talking to fungi. These are genes that allow the plant to lower its immune defenses. Because usually, if a fungus tries to bore into you...
It's an infection, you want to kill it.
Exactly, that's a pathogen. But these plants have a specific genetic welcome mat that allows only these beneficial fungi inside to trade.
And those genes are ancient.
They appear to be ancient. They date back to the very beginning of land plants.
So the ability to cooperate wasn't something they learned later. It was baked into the hardware of land plants from day one.
It was a prerequisite. The molecular evidence, it reads like a contract written in DNA. It has clauses about resource exchange and recognition signals, and it has been preserved for 400 million years.
And so they team up, the astronaut with the drill and the astronaut with the solar panel. What was the result of this partnership? Because we are not walking on gray rock today.
The consequence was the terraforming of Earth. The most immediate impact was the creation of soil.
We mentioned earlier that there was no soil, just rock. How does this partnership make dirt?
It goes back to that mining. Fungi are powerful weathering agents. By penetrating the rock, dissolving the minerals with acid, and physically cracking it open, they created loose particles. They turned solid granite into crumble.
Okay.
And then over time, as generations of these plants and fungi lived and died, their organic matter mixed with these rock particles.
And voila, soil.
Exactly. Soil is just crushed rock plus dead organic matter. And once you have soil, you can support larger, more complex vegetation.
You can have plants with deeper root systems. You can have forests.
And forests change everything. This partnership triggered a massive shift in the Earth's climate. More plants meant more photosynthesis.
Which means sucking carbon dioxide out of the air.
Massive amounts of it. We are talking about a drawdown of CO2 that radically shifted the atmospheric chemistry. It cooled the planet, it increased oxygen levels, it set the stage for insects, and eventually land animals like us.
So when I walk outside and breathe fresh air or stand on dirt in my garden, I'm directly benefiting from this ancient deal.
You are standing on the product of their labor. We often say plants conquered the land, but really, plants and fungi created the ground beneath them as they went. They built the biosphere from the bottom up.
Now, you touched on something earlier that I want to circle back to. This isn't just ancient history. This contract didn't expire.
No, it is very much in force today. In fact, if you go outside right now, it's happening.
The sources say that if you walk through a forest or a garden right now, the deal is still active beneath your feet.
Absolutely. The majority of land plants today, something like 80 to 90%, still rely on mycorrhizal fungi. They never learn to do it entirely alone. Even huge trees like oaks and pines rely on this web.
And they are still paying for it.
They are paying a premium? This is the part that blows my mind. Plants feed the fungi a steady flow of sugar. The data suggests that plants direct as much as 1/5, 20% of their total photosynthetic output underground.
Wow. Imagine giving 20% of your paycheck to your landlord every single month for 400 million years. That is a serious commitment.
It's a steep price, but it's worth it. In exchange, the fungi multiply the surface area of the roots by thousands of times. They can reach water and nutrients the plant could never access alone.
It really makes you look at a tree differently. You see the trunk and the leaves, but you're missing half the organism, or rather the partner organism underground that makes it all possible.
It does. And I think this leads us to a bit of a philosophical shift in how we view nature.
I love when we get philosophical.
Yeah.
Where are we going with this?
Well, think about how we usually tell the story of evolution. What's the catchphrase everyone knows?
Nature red in tooth and claw. Survival of the fittest. Competition. The strong eat the weak.
Exactly. We tend to focus on competition. And competition is real, of course. Lions eat zebras. Trees compete for light. But this story fact number 5 suggests that the most dramatic leap in Earth's history didn't happen because of competition.
Moving from water to land.
Yes, the colonization of the continents. The moment life left the cradle, it happened through partnership.
It happened through cooperation.
That's it. It's such a powerful thought. Plants didn't conquer the land alone. Fungi didn't conquer the land alone.
If they had tried to do it alone, they both would have died on that gray rock.
Exactly. They survived because they cooperated. They succeeded because they specialized, one on energy, one on mining, and they shared the proceeds.
So maybe survival of the fittest is the wrong phrase. Maybe it's survival of the most cooperative.
Or at least survival belongs to those who know when to shake hands with someone who has what you lack.
That sounds like a lesson for humanity, doesn't it?
I think it is. We often glorify the rugged individual, the solitary conqueror, but the natural world, at its most fundamental level, the very ground we stand on, is built on a coalition.
A 400-million-year-old coalition.
Exactly. The green veil that covers our continents isn't a monolith, it's a relationship.
It's amazing to think that the reason we can live on land, the reason we have food to eat and air to breathe, comes down to a sugar-for-mineral swap that started in the Devonian period.
And continues every single day in your backyard.
So what does this all mean for us?
I think it means we should respect the invisible labor that keeps the world running. We look at the beautiful forests and the crops, but we rarely think about the fungal engineers underground paying the bills. And maybe, as we face our own global challenges,
Climate change, resource scarcity.
we should look at this ancient partnership. The most successful organisms aren't the ones who fight the hardest, but the ones who build the strongest networks of mutual survival.
That is a fantastic takeaway. The future belongs to the cooperators.
It certainly seems to have worked for the last 400 million years.
I'll never look at a mushroom the same way again. It's not just a fungus, it's an astronaut with a drill.
And a very important business partner.
Absolutely. This has been a fascinating look into the deep history of our planet. It's a reminder that life finds a way, usually by working together.
And that even the most barren rock can become a garden if you have the right friends.
That covers 5. Ready for the next one? Let's head to fact 4. Welcome back. We are moving right along in our countdown. Let's dive into fact number 4.
This entry, honestly, this is the one that kept me up at night while I was researching it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not out of fear exactly, but just, the sheer implications of what nature is capable of. We are pivoting to a location that most people associate with death, with silence, and probably the greatest engineering failure of the 20th century.
We are heading to Chernobyl.
We are. Specifically, we're going to the exclusion zone, but I want to take you deeper than, the tourist zone where people go to take photos of abandoned Ferris wheels.
Right.
We are going inside the sarcophagus, into the ruined reactor buildings themselves.
Okay, help me set the scene here, because I think we all have that HBO miniseries version in our heads. Gray, concrete, bleak. But what does it actually look like inside Reactor 4 today?
It's a tomb. Picture the remains of the control room. It's dark, the walls are water-stained, you've got equipment that's either stripped or just rusted out, and the concrete is crumbling. It smells of damp dust and stale air.
An invisible danger.
Massive danger. If you were standing there right now, unshielded, the Geiger counter in your hand wouldn't just be clicking, it would be screaming.
Wow.
We're talking about remaining pockets of radiation that are fatal to humans within hours. By all traditional biological metrics, this should be a dead zone, a sterile wasteland where nothing complex can survive.
And yet, and this is the hook that got me when I was reading the source material, that is not what researchers found when they sent robots and eventually hazmat-suited teams in there.
No, not at all. They found life. In the heart of the reactor, growing on the walls of the ruined unit, they found these black, creeping colonies.
Black frost. That's how one of the reports described it.
It's a very apt description, but this wasn't soot or ash from the fire. This was a fungus, specifically species like Cryptococcus neoformans. And the color is the critical clue here. These weren't your typical, white bathroom mildews. They were jet black.
Because they are rich in melanin.
Exactly. Saturated with it.
Okay, let's pause and really unpack this. Because when I hear melanin, I think of human skin. It's the pigment that determines our skin tone, our hair color.
It is the exact same pigment. In humans and in a lot of animals, melanin is primarily a shield. Its job is to absorb ultraviolet light from the sun so the UV rays don't penetrate deeper and damage our DNA.
Right, it just dissipates that energy as heat. It's a passive blocker.
A passive blocker, yes.
So my initial thought when I read this was, okay, the fungus is just using a sunscreen against the nuclear radiation. It's just putting up a parasol to block the hits, right?
That's what scientists thought at first, too. It seemed that the logical biological response survived the assault. But then they noticed something weird. In the samples, these fungi weren't just tolerating the radiation, they were seeking it out.
Seeking it out like a plant leaning toward a window?
Precisely like that. They found the fungus growing towards the sources of highest radioactivity. It was literally hunting the hot spots.
No way.
Yeah, it was directional growth. And when they took these fungi back to the lab and ran control tests, the results were just baffling. the fungi grew significantly faster, about 20% faster, in the presence of high-level ionizing radiation than they did in a radiation-free environment.
Wait, hang on. That applies everything I know about biology. Radiation is a wrecking ball.
Yeah.
It shatters DNA. It rips electrons off atoms. It shouldn't make things grow better.
You're absolutely right. Ionizing radiation usually tears through biological tissue like a bullet through wet paper. It destroys the genetic instructions for life. That's why it kills us.
Right.
But these fungi, they figured out how to catch the bullet.
So they aren't just shielding themselves.
No, they are feeding.
Feeding on radiation.
The term is radiosynthesis.
Okay, define that for me. We all learned photosynthesis in, what, 5th grade?
Right, and it's a great parallel. In photosynthesis, plants use chlorophyll, which is green, to capture visible light from the sun.
Right. Energy.
That energy is then used to convert carbon dioxide and water into glucose, sugar, food.
Simple enough. Green pigment catches light, makes sugar.
Radiosynthesis is the high-stakes, heavy metal version of that. These fungi use melanin instead of chlorophyll. And instead of visible sunlight, they're capturing gamma rays.
Which are much, much higher energy.
Orders of magnitude higher. A gamma ray slams into the melanin molecule, and because of the unique shape of that molecule, it traps that high-energy particle. It scatters the electrons inside the melanin structure.
And normally, scattered electrons in a cell are bad news. That's free radicals, oxidative stress, that's damage.
Usually, yes. But the fungus has coupled this melanin shell to its metabolism. It takes those excited electrons and channels them. It basically plugs the radiation directly into its cellular battery charger.
That is wild. So if I'm standing in reactor 4, the radiation is a death sentence. But for the fungus,
It's breakfast. It's an unlimited, all-you-can-eat buffet.
it completely reframes how we think about habitable environments. We assume life needs sunlight or, chemical heat vents at the bottom of the ocean.
Sure, right.
We never assumed life could eat nuclear waste.
And it suggests that life is so much more opportunistic than we give it credit for. We see a disaster. Nature sees a vacant lot with a lot of free energy floating around.
It's like finding a creature that drinks Prozen to get hydrated.
Or a creature that eats fire to stay cool. It just completely upends our definition of the food chain.
So we have this biological miracle happening in the ruins of Chernobyl, a fungus that has essentially built a nuclear-powered generator into its own skin. But this isn't just a fun fact about mold, right? Because looking at the source stack, there's a massive pivot here toward human application.
Huge. Because we aren't just looking at this and saying, cool, good for the fungus. We're looking at this and saying, hey, can we borrow that?
Borrow it for what? Not for nuclear cleanup, surely.
Well, maybe for cleanup eventually. But the immediate interest, and this is coming from major aerospace organizations like NASA, is for space travel.
Space travel.
Think about the biggest hurdle to getting humans to Mars. It's not the rocket technology. We basically have that. It's not the food.
It's the radiation.
It's the radiation. Once you leave Earth's magnetic field, that nice protective bubble we live in, you are being bombarded by galactic cosmic rays. GCRs. It just shreds human DNA over a 6-month trip.
And to protect an astronaut, you need shielding. Lead walls, thick water tanks.
Exactly. Heavy, dense stuff. But in space travel, mass is the enemy. Every pound you launch into orbit costs thousands of dollars in fuel. You can't build a spaceship out of lead. It would never get off the ground.
So the engineers were looking at the Chernobyl fungus and thinking, what? We coat the ship in mold.
Effectively, yes. They are testing the idea of bioshields.
That sounds like science fiction. Captain, raise the bioshields.
It feels like it, but the logic is sound. You don't launch heavy shielding. You launch a small starter colony of this melanin-rich fungus and some nutrient solution. Once you're in orbit or on your way to Mars, you grow the shield.
You grow the shield on the walls of the ship.
On the hull, or in between the inner and outer walls, the fungus grows. It creates a thick, melanin-dense biomass. And then you can either keep it alive or dry it out. Experiments on the International Space Station have already shown that a layer of this fungus, just a few millimeters thick, can reduce radiation levels by a significant percentage.
But is it better than lead? Or just lighter?
It's strictly lighter, but it has a massive advantage that lead doesn't have. Lead is dead matter. If a micrometeoroid hits a lead shield and cracks it, that crack is there forever.
Right, you have to go out on a spacewalk and weld it shut.
Exactly. But if your shield is made of living fungal biomass,
It heals.
it's self-repairing. If you sustain damage, you just add some nutrients, wake the fungus up, and let it grow back over the breach. It's a living hull.
That is the part that blows my mind. We're talking about a spaceship that acts more like an organism than a machine.
And there's a secondary benefit. Remember, this fungus eats radiation. There is theoretical work suggesting that we could actually harvest a small amount of energy from the shield itself.
So the radiation trying to kill the astronauts actually helps power the ship.
On a very small scale, perhaps. But it turns a negative into a slight positive. It turns the hazard into a resource.
It's ironic, isn't it?
What is?
That the blueprint for humanity becoming a spacefaring species for us to safely leave Earth might come from our worst nuclear accident.
Yeah.
We broke the world at Chernobyl, and nature evolved the solution we need to leave.
It is a profound irony, and it connects to a broader concept in the notes called mycotecture.
I saw that term, mycotecture.
Mm.
Architecture made of fungus. I assume that was just for hipsters building eco-sheds in Portland.
Well, it's big in Portland, sure, but NASA's looking at it for Mars habitats. Imagine landing on Mars. You don't bring bricks, you don't bring steel beams, you bring an inflatable dome and some spores.
You inflate the dome, inject the spores.
And the fungal mycelium, the root network, grows through the local dust, binding it together like glue. It creates a structure that is fire-resistant, insulating, and thanks to our Chernobyl friend, radiation-proof.
You bake it, it hardens, and you have a house.
A house that you grew.
It makes our current technology look so clunky. We're still welding metal plates together, and nature is over here 3D printing nuclear-proof houses out of dust.
It highlights the fundamental difference between human engineering and biological engineering. We build things that are hard, static, and brittle. Nature builds things that are adaptable, regenerative, and resilient.
Which brings us to the so what of this deep dive. Because we always like to zoom out. We've got the science radiosynthesis, we've got the application spaceships made of mold, but there's a philosophical angle in the source material that I think is really important here.
There is. It centers on the concept of anti-fragility.
Okay, break that down. I know the term, but how does it apply to radioactive fungus?
So think about 3 categories of things. First, you have fragile. Fragile means if you drop it or stress it, it breaks, like a teacup or a complex human power grid.
Right. One thing goes wrong, the whole thing crashes.
Then you have robust or resilient. If you drop it, it doesn't break. It stays the same, like a rock. It withstands the shock.
It survives the stress, but it doesn't change.
Exactly. But anti-fragile. That describes something that gets stronger when you stress it. It benefits from chaos. It feeds on the disorder.
And the fungus is anti-fragile.
Perfectly so. Chernobyl was a fragile system. One safety test went wrong, one design flaw, and the city of Pripyat was lost. But the biological system, when we hit it with the ultimate stressor ionizing radiation, it didn't just survive, it adapted. It evolved a new metabolic pathway. It became stronger because of the disaster.
That's a heavy takeaway. What we call catastrophe, evolution calls opportunity.
Exactly. We look at the exclusion zone and we see a tragedy. We see a ruined city, a poisonous landscape, a failure of governance and science. But nature doesn't know what a tragedy is. Nature just sees a change in the environment.
And it fills the vacuum.
It fills the vacuum immediately. And it forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. We tend to think of nature as this fragile flower that needs pristine conditions, clean water, perfect air, or else it collapses.
Save the Earth, right? We treat the planet like it's a porcelain doll.
Right. And we absolutely should be worried about preserving the biosphere that supports us, because we are fragile. But the planet itself, life itself, the Chernobyl fungi, prove that life is incredibly tough. It doesn't need pristine conditions. It just needs time and pressure.
It makes me think about how we approach our own future. We are so worried about whether we can survive our own mistakes. Climate change, pollution, you name it.
The question isn't whether life will survive our mistakes. The black fungus already answered that. It's happy to eat our radioactive waste. The question is whether we will survive them.
That is the crux of it. Are we going to adapt our civilizations to be as anti-fragile as these organisms? Or are we going to keep building brittle systems that break while tougher, stranger life forms move into the ruins we leave behind?
I'm just imagining a future where thousands of years from now, humans are gone and the world is just covered in this lush, black, radioactive jungle.
It's a distinct possibility if we don't learn from the fungi. But the optimistic take here, and the notes lean into this, is collaboration. We don't have to be replaced by the fungus. We can partner with it.
Ah, right. Like we discussed with the space travel applications, we use that biological genius, that billion-year R&D lab of evolution, to solve the problems we created.
We use the fungal shield to get to Mars. We use fungal enzymes to break down our plastic waste. which is another area of research linked in the stack. We use fungal networks to heal the soil.
It really is a shift in mindset. We stop trying to conquer nature or pave over it and start trying to co-engineer with it.
You know, it reminds me of that point in the notes about the Wood Wide Web and symbiosis.
Oh, absolutely. The mycorrhizal networks.
The idea that plants didn't conquer the land alone 400 million years ago.
Right.
They couldn't extract nutrients from the rock. They did it because they partnered with fungi.
Right. The plants provided the sugar from the sun, the fungi provided the mining equipment to get phosphorus and nitrogen from the soil. Neither could have done it alone. It was a trade deal.
And maybe that's the phase humanity is in right now. We're like those early plants. We're trying to colonize a new environment, whether that's space or just a sustainable future on a damaged Earth. And we can't do it alone with just metal and silicon.
We need a partner. And it turns out the partner's been waiting there the whole time, quietly recycling our mess, eating our radiation, and waiting for us to notice.
It really changes how you look at a mushroom, doesn't it? It's not just a pizza topping. It's a potential radiation shield, a space habitat builder, and a lesson in survival.
Biologists sometimes call fungi the third kingdom. Not plant, not animal. They are the weird siblings of the biological family.
The weird sibling who actually knows how to fix the car when it breaks down.
Yes. The sibling who knows how to fix the car and clean up the oil spill afterwards. We've spent so much time studying animals because they're like us, and plants because they feed us. But fungi, they are the systems administrators of the planet. They run the recycling, they manage the nutrient networks, and apparently they clean up our nuclear disasters.
So if we look at the big picture of fact number 4, what is the one thing you want our listener to take away? When they're sitting in traffic later today, staring at the bumper in front of them, what should be stuck in their head?
I want them to think about that invisible world, to realize that the boundaries of life are much wider than we think. We draw a line and say nothing can live here because of the radiation. Fungi erase that line. We say, this environment is dead. Fungi say, it's just different.
It's about perspective.
It is. The takeaway is that biology is not static. It is a dynamic, problem-solving force. And right now, in the darkest, most dangerous room on Earth, a place we are too afraid to step foot in, something is growing. And it's not afraid.
That gives me chills. Something is growing and it's not afraid.
It's hopeful in a strange, slightly gothic way.
It is. It's very sci-fi, but it's real. It's happening right now, 24/7. While we were recording this, that fungus is slowly creeping across the control panel of Reactor 4.
And it suggests that no matter how bad things get, there is always a pathway through. You just might have to change your biology or your engineering to find it.
Or borrow some melanin from a mushroom.
Precisely.
Before we wrap up Fact 4, I have to ask about the visual again. You mentioned that these fungi are black and they seek heat. Is the entire inside of the reactor just coated in this stuff, like a carpet?
It creates these distinct patches. It follows the radiation gradients. It's literally seeking out the fuel rods and the debris. If you could see radiation like heat, the fungus would be huddling around the fire.
That is such a vivid image. The campfire of the apocalypse.
And they are posting marshmallows.
Okay, on that note, coasting marshmallows on the campfire of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
I think we've thoroughly unpacked the radioactive miracle of the Chernobyl fungi.
Yeah.
It's a story of disaster, evolution, and potentially our ticket to the stars.
A perfect example of how the strangest facts in the stack are often the most important ones.
Absolutely. That covers 4. Ready for the next one? Let's head to fact 3.
Welcome back. We are moving right along in our countdown. Let's dive into fact number 3.
We are indeed. And fact number 3 is, it's a heavy hitter. It fundamentally challenges the single most permanent thing in human history, our architecture.
The things we build.
The things we live in, the structures that define our skyline, and, our safety.
It's interesting you say challenges because when I look at the history of construction, it feels like a pretty straight line. We went from mud to stone, stone to brick, brick to concrete and steel. We just got better at making things hard and heavy and dead.
Dead is the perfect word there. Our entire philosophy of building for thousands of years has been about extraction and assembly. You dig up rock, you melt ore, you mix chemicals.
You force these inert materials into a shape.
And you just hope they stay there.
Yeah.
But fact number 3 suggests a hard left turn. It asks, what if we stop building our houses and start growing them?
Okay, that sounds like science fiction.
It does, but it's happening right now. We're looking at the emergence of mycotecture.
Mycotecture. So, architecture from fungi. And to be clear for everyone listening, we aren't talking about living inside a giant mushroom like in a fairy tale.
No, not at all. And that's the key misconception we need to clear up right away. This isn't about the mushroom itself, the part that pops up on your lawn.
The fruiting body.
Exactly. This is about the mycelium.
Which is the root structure, basically.
Think of it as the vegetative part of the fungus. It's that white, thread-like network that lives underground or inside a rotting log. In the wild, it's nature's recycler.
It breaks things down.
But scientists realize that if you can control how it grows, it stops being a recycler and starts being a binder. It becomes a kind of biological glue.
So we're hijacking the digestive system of a fungus to make bricks.
Essentially, yes. And the stakes here are incredibly high. The source material points out this tech is currently being prototyped by NASA.
NASA?
Yes. So this isn't just for some eco-friendly cabin in the woods. This is the leading contender for how we're going to survive on Mars.
Wow. Okay, that is a massive leap. From fungus in the dirt to a habitat on the red planet. But before we get to space, I really want to understand the mechanics. On Earth, if I walked into a mycotexture factory, or I guess a mycotexture farm, what am I seeing?
You'd likely see a dimly lit room, probably full of molds, forms in the shape of bricks or panels or whatever.
Okay.
And inside those molds, you have two basic ingredients. First, the substrate. This is usually just agricultural waste.
So, trash,
The
basically.
high-value trash, sawdust, corn stalks, hemp husks, things that are fibrous and full of carbon. You grind that up, put it in the mold, and then you add ingredient number two, the fungal spores.
The seeds.
Right, you inoculate the waste. Now, if you were to watch a time-lapse of this over the next, say, 5 to 7 days, you'd see something amazing.
The spores wake up.
They wake up and send out these things called hyphae,
Those are the little threads.
microscopic filaments, yeah. They start fanning out through all the sawdust looking for food, and as they digest the sugars in the wood, they just keep branching and extending. It's like a three-dimensional root system spreading out.
So they're eating the sawdust but not making it disappear.
They're consuming bits of it for energy, but mostly they are binding it. Imagine millions of these tiny threads just stitching every single particle of sawdust to every other particle. It creates this dense, tangled matrix.
It sounds like nature's 3D printing. But instead of a nozzle laying down plastic, the material is sort of self-replicating.
That's a perfect way to put it. The material fills the entire void space of the mold completely. And by the end of the week, you don't have a pile of loose sawdust anymore.
You have a solid block.
A solid white block. It looks a bit like styrofoam or maybe plaster.
But at that point, it's still alive, right? If I put it on my desk, is it going to sprout mushrooms?
It would, yeah. If you kept it moist and fed it, it would eventually try to reproduce. But we don't want that for a building material. You don't want your wall releasing spores into your bedroom.
Definitely not.
So the final step is absolutely crucial. You bake it, you put the block in a kiln.
To kill it.
Exactly, to deactivate the fungus. You dry it out completely, and what you're left with is an inert, rigid material that holds the shape of the mold perfectly. It's strong, it's light, and it's completely non-toxic.
I want to push back on strong for a second, because when I think of fungus, I think soft, squishy. I definitely don't think load-bearing wall.
I get it, and that's where the structure of this mycelium network is so surprising. It has incredible specific strength.
Meaning strength relative to its weight.
Exactly. Now, is it as hard as concrete? No.
So we aren't building skyscrapers out of this just yet?
Not the structural skeleton, no. But for infill walls, for insulation, for 1 or 2 story structures, it's incredibly capable. And it has something concrete completely lacks: elasticity. Right. A GIF. Concrete is brittle. It has great compressive strength, sure. But if the ground shifts or you hit it hard, it just cracks. Mycelium composites absorb that energy.
So they bend before they break.
They have that slight flexibility. It's the difference between a rock and, say, a piece of wood.
That shock absorption seems incredibly valuable, especially in earthquake zones. But what about fire? Wood burns. Sawdust definitely burns. You're telling me a brick made of that stuff is safe?
This is the part that really blew my mind in the research. You'd think it would just go up in flames.
It's kindling.
But it doesn't. Mycelium is naturally flame retardant. When you expose it to a flame, the outside chars.
It creates a protective layer.
Exactly right. It forms a carbon barrier that protects the core. It doesn't melt like plastic foam insulation, and it doesn't release all that toxic black smoke.
Yeah.
Mycelium just smolders slowly.
So in a house fire, that's a huge deal. The smoke is often what gets people.
A huge deal. It's safer than a lot of the synthetic stuff we currently have in our walls, and it's a better insulator for both heat and sound.
Okay, so on Earth, it totally makes sense. A sustainable alternative to foams, maybe some bricks. but the source material pivots so hard to space. Why is NASA obsessed with fungus?
It all comes down to the most brutal law of space travel.
The rocket equation.
The tyranny of weight. Gravity is the most expensive thing in the universe to fight. It costs thousands of dollars just to launch a single kilogram into orbit. To Mars, the cost is astronomical.
So the idea of packing steel beams and bags of concrete mix onto a rocket is...
It's a non-starter. You just can't bring a city with you to Mars. It's far too heavy.
So you have to build it there, but Mars is desolate. What do you build with?
You have regolith, that red dust, and you can try to melt it into bricks, but that takes enormous amounts of power. NASA wants a low-energy solution, and biology is the ultimate low-energy manufacturer.
Enter the fungus.
Enter the fungus. And the logic is just brilliant. Don't ship the materials, ship the workers.
So spores.
Spores weigh practically nothing. You can pack billions of them in a tiny vial. So you carry a few kilograms of dormant fungus and maybe some nutrient powder. When you get to Mars, you just wake them up.
But what do they eat? You said they need organic waste. There are no trees on Mars.
You have the astronauts.
Ah, okay. I see where this is going.
It's a biological reality, you know. Astronauts produce waste, food scraps, bioplastics, sewage. Instead of just getting rid of it, you feed it to the mycelium.
So you're turning the colony's waste stream into its expansion plan.
It's a completely closed-loop system. And the construction method they're proposing is straight out of science fiction. They're talking about inflatable habitats.
Like a giant bouncy castle on Mars.
Pretty much. A rover lands, it deploys a plastic dome, and it just inflates it. But the walls of this dome are hollow.
Okay.
Then you inject a slurry, the spores, the nutrients, the waste, into that wall cavity.
And you just wait.
You just wait. You let nature take over. Over a few weeks, the mycelium grows through that slurry, binding it all together, filling the shape of the inflatable dome. It hardens. It creates this thick, insulated, radiation-shielding shell.
So you grow the house inside a balloon?
And by the time the humans arrive a few months later, their house is ready for them. Rigid, insulated, and built by an organism that didn't require a single watt of power to do the heavy lifting.
That is a complete inversion of how we think about high tech. We imagine these gleaming metal space spaces. This is organic. It's almost agricultural.
It is. And there's a feature in the research that takes it even one step further. We talked about baking the bricks on Earth to kill the fungus.
Yeah, to make it inert.
For space habitats, they're looking at a hybrid state.
Yeah.
You might kill the outer structural layer to make it rigid, but you keep a layer of dormant, living mycelium inside the wall.
Why would you keep it alive?
Self-repair.
A self-healing building.
Think about it. Mars has micrometeoroids, little grains of rock moving at insane speeds. If one of those punctures a normal aluminum wall, you have a hole. You're losing air.
And you have to find it and patch it fast.
But with a living mycelium wall, the environment at the puncture site changes. Suddenly there's oxygen, a pressure drop. That environmental cue could wake up the dormant fungus.
It senses the wound.
And it starts to grow. It grows right into the breach, knitting the hole shut, sealing the leak. It's exactly what your skin does when you get a cut.
So we're basically giving our buildings an immune system.
We are. We're treating architecture as a biological entity. And that changes everything. You aren't just maintaining your house, you're keeping it healthy.
That's profound. It's not a machine you fix. It's an organism you tend to. But let's bring this back down to Earth for a minute, because Mars is exciting, but we have a climate crisis right here. Is this actually scalable?
The sources argue that we actually need this more right here at home. And it comes back to carbon.
The carbon footprint of construction.
It's massive. I mean, the numbers are just staggering. Cement production alone, just making that gray powder, accounts for about 8% of global CO2 emissions.
That's more than the entire airline industry.
Way more. We are literally cooking the planet to build our cities. Concrete is a chemical process that releases carbon. Mycotexture is a biological process that sequesters it.
It traps it.
Think about the inputs. You're taking agricultural waste plant matter that sucks CO2 out of the air. As the mycelium grows, it locks that carbon into the solid brick. You're taking waste that would otherwise rot and release methane and turning it into a carbon sink you can live inside.
So every wall you build is actually cleaning the atmosphere a little bit.
Exactly. And then think about the end of the life cycle. This, for me, is the real game changer. When we tear down a skyscraper today, where does all that rubble go?
To a landfill. It just sits there forever. Mountains of construction waste.
It's permanent trash. But a mycelium building, when it's reached the end of its life, you knock it down, you break it up, and you throw it in the garden.
It composts.
It returns to the soil. It feeds the worms. It nourishes the ground. It is a truly circular economy.
That's the difference between technological and biological, isn't it? Technology usually ends as waste. Biology ends as food for something else.
Precisely. And this forces us to rethink the role of the builder. The source material uses a term I absolutely love, the architect-farmer.
The architect-farmer. Unpack that, because right now architects use computers and farmers use tractors. Very different jobs.
Well, for the last 10,000 years, an architect has been someone who imposes their will on materials. You draw a straight line, and you force steel and stone to obey that line.
You conquer nature to make a shelter.
Right. But an architect-farmer, they don't impose, they guide. They understand the growth parameters of the organism, temperature, humidity, food, and they create the conditions for the structure to emerge on its own.
So you aren't building a new wing on your house, you're planting it.
Honey, the nursery's coming in nicely this season.
Yeah.
It sounds funny, but it's a radical shift. It blurs that line between the made and the born.
Which we usually see as a very hard barrier. A car is made, a horse is born, a house is made, a tree is born.
Mycotecture dissolves that barrier. It suggests a future where our cities aren't these gray scars on the landscape, separate from nature. The city becomes a part of nature.
A living organism.
A metabolic extension of the ecosystem. Imagine a city that breathes, that grows, that dies, and returns to the earth when it's done. It aligns our civilization with the biological reality of the planet.
It's humbling, really. We spend so much time trying to invent these super alloys and nanotechnologies to solve our problems, and the answer to sustainable housing, both here and on Mars, might be this ancient silent fungus that's been under our feet the whole time.
Biology has had millions of years of R&D. It knows how to build strong, adaptable structures. We're just finally smart enough to stop trying to reinvent the wheel and, just ask nature for the blueprints.
That covers 3. Ready for the next one? Let's head to fact 2.
Welcome back. We are moving right along in our countdown. Let's dive into fact number 2.
For this one, we really have to shift our perspective. A lot of the things on this list are big in a way you can see immediately. Loud, fast, visually striking.
Yeah, this one is different. It's quiet.
It's quiet, and it forces you to completely rethink what the scale of life can even be.
It really does. So to set the scene, let's take a trip. I want you to imagine we're in the Pacific Northwest.
Specifically, the Malheur National Forest in the Blue Mountains of Oregon.
Beautiful country.
Oh, it's stunning. You've got these high-elevation conifer forests, ponderosa pines, Douglas firs. It just feels ancient.
It does. And okay, you're there. You've got your hiking boots on. You're on the trail. It's a cool morning, pine-scented air. You look around, you see trees, soil, ferns.
A completely normal, healthy-looking forest.
Exactly. It looks like any other hike you might take.
And that's the illusion, really, because what you're seeing on the surface is just the stage dressing.
Right, because beneath your feet, literally under the trail, lies a monster.
Monster is a good word for it. Or maybe a leviathan. We talk about megafauna, whales and elephants. This is something else.
And we're not talking folklore here. No sleeping dragons. This is a real, living, biological thing.
And the key statistic is just, it's hard to process.
It is.
Yeah.
Think about that hike we just mentioned. You could start walking at a pretty good pace, a brisk walk.
Yeah.
And you could walk for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30. For 40 straight minutes, you could hike through this forest and never once step off this single creature.
40 minutes, that's miles. This single individual spans more than 2.4 miles across, about 3.8 kilometers.
That is just immense. So let's name it. We're talking about the honey mushroom.
Armillaria festoiae. And yeah, this one individual in Oregon is recognized as one of the largest, if not the largest, single living organisms on Earth by area.
See, that's what messes with my brain.
Yeah.
Because my first thought for largest living thing is, I don't know, a blue whale.
Of course.
Or maybe a giant sequoia tree, right? Something you can look up at and say, wow, that's big.
We think of big as a single visible mass. A whale is, 100 feet long? This fungus is over 2 miles wide. It's just a totally different geometry of being alive.
That's the disconnect for me. If I'm standing there, I don't see a giant 2-mile-wide mushroom. I just see trees. So where is it? What am I actually standing on?
That's the perfect question. And the answer is you're looking for the wrong shape. You're looking for a body like ours, something contained.
I'm looking for a giant mushroom cap, basically.
And you might see some little ones. In the fall, you'll see these clusters of honey-colored mushrooms at the base of trees. But, and this is the key, Those are just the fruiting bodies.
Like an apple on a tree.
Exactly like an apple on a tree. They're temporary, they're for reproduction. You wouldn't say the apple is the tree.
So the real organism, the tree in this analogy, is hidden.
It's all underground. The real body is the mycelium.
Okay, let's get into that.
Yeah.
If we could put on some X-ray goggles and look down into the soil of that mountain, what would we see?
You would see a labyrinth, just this unimaginable network of microscopic threads called hyphae.
And with armillaria, they form something bigger, right?
They do. They bundle together into these thick, black, leathery cords. They're called rhizomorphs. They look like shoestrings.
I think I've seen those on dead logs sometimes, under the bark, these black root-like lines.
That's them. And those shoestrings are weaving through every inch of the soil, drilling into tree roots, breaking down dead wood. The mountain soil is infused with this thing.
So the source material had this fantastic analogy. It said, asking where is the fungus is like looking at a spider web.
And asking where is the web?
Exactly. You can't point to one thread. The web is the whole structure.
It's the body, the trap, the sensory system, all at once. For armillaria, the forest floor is its body.
Okay, but let's be rigorous here. How do we actually know it's one individual? Couldn't it just be a massive colony, like, millions of separate fungi all living together?
A totally fair question. And for years, that was the assumption. But then, in the 90s, scientists went out there and did the genetic work.
They took DNA samples?
Yep. They took samples of the fungus from opposite ends of the forest, miles apart, and the genetic fingerprints were identical. They were clones.
Wow. So not a family, not a colony.
One continuous, genetically identical individual that started from a single spore and just kept growing.
So the only honest answer to where is it is it's under most of this mountain.
Pretty much, which is just, it redefines what an individual can even look like.
And it's not just big, it's ancient. We're talking deep time.
We really are. It's hard to get an exact age, but based on its size and a known very slow growth rate, what are the estimates?
The conservative estimate is at least 2,400 years old.
At least. And some think it could be much older, maybe as much as 8,000 years.
Just sticking with 2,400 for a second, let's put that into context.
Please.
2,400 years ago, the Roman Republic was still just a local power in Italy. It wasn't an empire.
Right. Julius Caesar was still centuries away. The Colosseum didn't exist.
Socrates and Plato were wandering around Athens, basically inventing Western philosophy. Well, this thing was getting its start in Oregon.
Buddhist teachings were only a couple of centuries old at that point.
It's wild. Think of all the human history. Empires rose, fell. The Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution, we went to the moon.
And through all of it, all our wars and plagues and triumphs, this thing in the Blue Mountains just kept spreading. An inch here, a foot there.
It's on a completely different clock than we are.
A geological clock. And it's dynamic. The forest above it has probably burned and regrown multiple times in 2,400 years.
But the fungus just persists underground.
Exactly. Regenerating, shifting, constantly eating.
Okay, let's talk about the eating. You called it a monster. What does this thing actually do? Is it just sitting there?
Oh no, it's very active. Armillaria ostoii is a pathogen. It causes a disease called armillaria root rot.
Doesn't sound good for the trees.
It's a death sentence. This fungus is essentially a predator. Those rhizomorphs hunt through the soil, and when they find a tree root,
They attack it.
they invade it. They use enzymes and incredible physical pressure to punch through the bark and get to the living tissue inside the cambium.
And it feeds on that.
It strangles the tree from below, cutting off water and nutrients from the roots. It's a very slow, methodical kill.
So it's a giant slow-motion forest serial killer.
In one sense, yes, but it's more complicated. It's also the gardener.
How can it be the gardener if it's killing everything?
Because it creates change, it creates opportunity. When it kills a tree, that tree eventually falls.
Right, and that opens up a gap in the canopy.
And sunlight hits the forest floor for the first time in maybe a century.
Yeah.
That allows new, sun-loving saplings to sprout. It's choreographing the death and rebirth of the forest.
So it's also the decomposer. It kills the tree, then it spends the next 50 years digesting the wood.
Yes. It's the predator, the undertaker, and the nursery manager all in one. The entire ecosystem, dying trees, rotting logs, new growth, it's all moving to the rhythm of this one giant fungus.
Can foresters do anything about it? If it's killing valuable timber?
what could they do? How do you remove an infection when the infection is the landscape?
You can't just spray it with something.
You'd have to literally excavate thousands of acres of soil down to the bedrock and sterilize it. You'd have to destroy the mountain. It's so woven into the ecosystem, they are one and the same.
This is where things get really philosophical for me. Because if this diffused, disconnected network is one organism, what does self even mean?
It completely challenges our definition.
Yeah, I mean, I have skin, I know where I end, and the world begins. This thing, its edge is just wherever it stopped growing yesterday.
It has no boundary.
Right.
And its body is discontinuous. It's threads separated by rocks and soil, yet it's all genetically one.
And then there's the age. It's 2,400 years old, but is any single piece of it that old?
Ah, the ship of Theseus.
The classic paradox. If you replace every plank on a ship, one by one, is it still the same ship at the end?
Exactly, and this fungus is the ultimate ship of Theseus. No single cell, no strand of hyphae is 2,400 years old. It's constantly dying back and regrowing at the edges.
The material's always changing.
But the pattern, the genetic identity, persists. It remains the same individual.
It's just mind-bending. And the craziest part for me is that it does all this with no brain. No consciousness?
No central nervous system at all.
It has no idea that it exists. It's not thinking, I am great, and yet it's bigger, older, and arguably more successful than almost any conscious creature on Earth.
It really makes you question if intelligence is the be-all and end-all of evolution.
Maybe intelligence is just overrated.
I mean, look at the evidence. This thing has outlasted empires without a single thought. It solves incredibly complex problems, resource management, defense, ecosystem engineering, all without a mind.
It's the silent winner.
And the source material brings it back to us in a really profound way. We think we're so different from the fungus.
But we're also a ship of Theseus.
You absolutely are. Your cells are constantly being replaced. The atoms that make up your body today are not the same ones from 7 years ago.
So I'm just a pattern, too. A pattern that persists through time while the matter flows through me.
You're a ship of Theseus made of meat.
Wow. I'm a meat ship.
We all are. The fungus is just a much older, much larger, and much more successful ship than we are so far.
It's a feeling of deep humility, isn't it?
Yeah.
To realize that the largest thing on Earth is invisible, silent, and right under our feet.
And it will probably be there long after our little patterns have faded away.
It just makes you look at a simple forest floor completely differently.
It really does. It challenges you to look past the obvious, to see the connections that are hidden just beneath the surface.
That covers 2. Ready for the next one? Let's head to fact 1. We have finally reached it. The most magnificent revelation on our list. Fact number 1.
It feels a bit surreal to be here.
Yeah.
We've been building toward this moment, layer by layer. This really is the culmination of our entire extraordinary journey through the fungal kingdom.
It is a massive buildup. I'm just looking at the list of what we've covered.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had actual zombies. We've had these glowing Avatar-style forests.
Right.
Radiation shields and nuclear reactors. And I'm honestly trying to figure out how you top that. Usually countdowns peak at the flashy stuff, but you're telling me that this fact number 1 is the crown jewel because it's, what, functional?
Not just functional, it is foundational. Without a doubt, the other 9 facts, they were about what fungi can do.
They're superpowers.
Exactly. They're superpowers, they're strange adaptations, they're party tricks. But fact number 1, it's about what they are to the planet. It's the fundamental machinery of existence. But before we get there, I think we have to look back.
Right.
We need to see the context to really feel the gravity of this final point.
See the path we walk to understand the destination. Okay, let's do it. A rapid-fire rewind of the mind-bending revelations that got us here, starting with fact number 10.
Fact number 10, the third kingdom.
This was the big recalibration point for me. The moment I realized, everything I learned in elementary school biology was a little bit off.
Yeah.
We just lump fungi in with plants because, well, they stick out of the ground.
And that's just a huge mistake, evolutionarily speaking. They're actually closer to animals.
To us.
To us. They breathe oxygen, they exhale CO2, just like we do. But the real key, the thing that sets the stage for today, is how they eat.
The external stomach, I still can't get that image out of my head.
It is wild. Animals put food inside their bodies to digest. Fungi sit inside their food and digest it externally. They just secrete enzymes and absorb the slurry.
It's the weird sibling that left home early, but still shares your DNA. Which leads us straight to fact number 9, the Wood Wide Web.
The underground internet. These vast mycorrhizal networks connecting trees.
And we had a good debate on this one. It gets romanticized, right? This socialist commune where all the trees are helping each other out.
The mother tree idea. And yes, they do exchange things like carbon and warning signals, but we have to remember, the fungus isn't a charity.
No.
It's a market economy. It takes a transaction fee of sugar for its services. It's capitalism under the dirt.
I love that. And sometimes that organism wants to be seen. Fact number 8, bioluminescent forests.
Foxfire, the fungi that literally glow in the dark.
And this isn't just like a random chemical thing, right? This is strategic.
Oh, absolutely. It's an open 24-hour sign. It costs a lot of energy to make light, so it has to be an advertisement to attract nocturnal insects.
To spread the spores.
To spread the spores. Evolution turning chemistry into a neon sign.
But then the advertising gets aggressive. Fact number 7, zombie ant control.
Ophiocordyceps, the fungus that hijacks an insect's brain.
This is the one. The precision is what gets me. It's not just killing the ant.
No, it's piloting it. It forces the ant to climb to exactly 25 centimeters off the ground.
The perfect humidity zone.
Yeah, the perfect spot. And bite down in a death grip at high noon, all to maximize spore dispersal. It's chemical puppetry.
From horror to hope, though. Fact number 6, the plastic eaters.
Yes, fungi that are evolving enzymes that act like molecular scissors cutting apart polyurethane.
So it's nature adapting to our mistakes. But, and we should be clear, this isn't a magic bullet yet, right? We can't just throw mushrooms in a landfill tomorrow.
Not yet, no, it's slow. But the fact that they are already evolving the tools to break those synthetic bonds, it just shows you their incredible metabolic adaptability.
They're learning to eat our garbage.
Okay.
Okay, fact number 5, the 400 million year symbiosis.
The history lesson. The reason we have forests at all. Plants never conquered land on their own.
Right, early plants didn't have roots. So without fungi, the earth is just barren rock.
Barren rock and maybe some slimy algae. Fungi acted as their root systems. It proves evolution isn't just competition, it's often cooperation.
And that cooperation can survive anything, even nuclear fallout. Fact number 4, radiation shielding.
The fungi growing inside the Chernobyl reactor.
This one just sounds like sci-fi. Fungi that eat radiation.
They perform radiosynthesis. They use melanin, the same pigment in our skin, to convert gamma radiation into chemical energy.
Which is why there's talk of using them as shields on spaceships. And that's a good thing, because if we do get to Mars, we'll need fact number 3, mycotecture.
Growing buildings instead of building them.
Right.
You send spores to Mars, and you literally grow your habitat out of mycelium bricks.
And the stats on that were insane. Stronger than concrete by weight.
Stronger, fire-resistant, and self-repairing. It's a total shift from architecture to, well, agriculture.
And finally, the titan that anchors it all. Fact number 2, the largest living thing.
The Armillaria ostoya, the humongous fungus in Oregon.
2.4 miles wide, over 2,400 years old.
Just a single continuous genetic pattern that owns square miles of territory. It has no brain, no central nervous system, and yet it's larger and older than almost anything else on Earth. It just makes you question what a self even is.
Okay, wow. That is a stack of facts that is just mind-bending. We've seen them act as internet cables, architects, radiation shields, zombie masters. But you said fact number 1 dwarfs all of them.
It does.
So let's unpack this. What is the single most magnificent revelation about fungi?
Fact number 1 is this. Fungi are the Earth's defragmenter.
The Earth's defragmenter. Okay, so we're using a computer analogy. For anyone who hasn't manually defragged a hard drive since, like Windows 95, what are we talking about?
It's the perfect analogy, but to understand why it's number 1, I want to try a thought experiment. Let's just visualize a world where fungi, specifically the decomposers, simply vanish.
Okay, gone. I'm picturing a forest, no mushrooms on the ground, looks cleaner maybe?
Right. Now, fast forward a year, the autumn leaves fall, and they just stay there.
They don't rot. But wait, don't bacteria and bugs and stuff do some of that?
They can handle the soft stuff, sure, the sugars. But leaves, and especially wood, are full of cellulose and lignin, incredibly tough stuff. Without fungi, the main drivers of that decomposition, those leaves just pile up.
Okay.
Now, fast forward 10 years, trees die. They fall over. But the wood doesn't soften, it doesn't turn back into soil, it just piles up.
So like a log jam, but everywhere.
Exactly. And now think about the animals. A deer dies, it mummifies, it dries out, but it doesn't disappear. All the building blocks of life, the carbon, the nitrogen, the phosphorus, They are locked inside these dead bodies.
The nutrients aren't getting recycled.
Not at all. They're trapped. The assembly line of life, plants building new leaves, animals building new bodies, it just stops.
Because the disassembly line is broken.
It's broken. You run out of parts. The planet becomes a global graveyard.
That is a terrifying visual. A world choked by its own history.
Is this just theoretical, though?
It's not. It's history. This actually happened during the Carboniferous period about 300 million years ago.
Wait, what? The Earth actually stopped rotting? For a window of time, yes. So, here's what happened. Plants had just figured out how to grow really tall. And to do that, they evolved this new molecule called lignin.
Lignin, right. The stuff that makes wood hard.
It's a biological supermaterial, incredibly durable. But here's the catch. When it first evolved, nothing on Earth knew how to eat it.
So the trees were building these skyscrapers of lignin, and when they died,
They just stayed there. For millions of years, dead trees just piled on top of each other without decaying. Imagine piles of wood kilometers deep.
wow.
That material compressed layer upon layer and eventually formed the massive coal deposits we burn today.
Hold on. So you're telling me the only reason we have coal, the fuel that literally powered the Industrial Revolution, is because for a window in deep time, the fungal defragmenter software hadn't been updated yet?
That is precisely it. The patch hadn't come out. If white rot fungi, the ones that eat lignin, had evolved 10 million years earlier, most of that coal just wouldn't exist.
But that's unbelievable. It changes everything. It's not just biology, it's geology, it's human history.
It changed the entire planet. And that brings us to the how. The mechanism here is what makes this fact number one. It is molecular disassembly.
So back to the external stomach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Life is built with tough chemical bonds. Fungi secrete these incredibly specific enzymes that are like keys to those chemical locks. They just dismantle everything.
They're stripping the car for parts.
That's a perfect way to put it. They take complex structures, a leaf, a log, and break them down into simple reusable elements. Carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus. They return those borrowed atoms to the system.
And that's the defragmenter analogy.
Right. On a computer, a defragmenter reorganizes all the scattered data so the system can run efficiently. Fungi do that for the biosphere. They ensure that death feeds life. They close the loop.
So without them, history just piles up until it chokes the future.
Beautifully put. Without that fungal defragmentation, the operating system of Earth just crashes.
When you put it that way, it stops being about rotting, which sounds kind of gross. It
Yeah.
starts to feel almost spiritual.
Yeah.
It's about renewal.
And this is where it gets really interesting. This is the philosophical climax of our whole journey. Because when you truly understand what fungi do, you realize something profound about yourself.
About me.
Okay, I'm listening.
About you. About every one of us. You are made of atoms, right? Carbon, nitrogen, calcium. Where did those come from?
From food, I guess, which came from plants and animals.
Right. And where did they get them? Those atoms have been here for billions of years. The carbon in your body right now was once part of a dinosaur.
Oh,
It was part of a fern in that Carboniferous forest. And the only reason it's available for you to use today,
is because a fungus unlocked it, liberated it from a previous life.
that's it. This is reincarnation, but through biochemistry. The law of conservation of mass says matter isn't created or destroyed, but it can be trapped. Fungi are the great liberators.
Okay, let's just sit with that for a second. We are literally made of recycled pieces.
We are borrowed pieces. Fungi ensure that nothing is truly lost. In our culture, we tend to see death as this final, tragic end state.
But through this lens, death is just a release back into the system. It's a transformation.
So when we die, if nature takes its course, fungi aren't destroying us.
No, they're defragmenting you. They're taking the complex pattern that is you and breaking it down into its component parts so they can be used again.
That is surprisingly comforting. I mean,
Wow.
the idea of being eaten by mushrooms is usually the stuff of nightmares, right? It's the grotesque part of death.
It's all about perspective. Think of it this way. The carbon that makes up your brain, that allows you to have these thoughts, will one day be part of a tree or a butterfly.
Because fungi keep the wheel turning.
Exactly. There's a line from the research notes that I think just sums this whole thing up perfectly. It says, fungi teach us that we are temporary patterns of organization.
Temporary paths.
We are a brief moment of coherence, and when that moment ends, fungi are there to ensure our potential isn't wasted. They won't let you rest in peace. They will recycle you into pieces of peace scattered everywhere.
Pieces of peace. Wow. That's beautiful.
That, to me, is true immortality. Not living forever in one body, but participating in the flow of life forever. And that is why the Earth's defragmenter is fact number 1. It is the engine of eternity.
It really does put the extraordinary in our name. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to look at a mushroom on a log the same way again. It's not a decomposer. It's the gatekeeper.
It is the bridge. And when you look back at all the other facts, the zombie ants, the wood wide web, you realize they're all just variations on this one theme: connection, transformation, resilience.
It has really been an extraordinary journey. We started with creepy crawlies and somehow ended up redefining the meaning of life.
That's the power of the deep dive. You pull on one little thread of mycelium and you find out it's attached to the entire universe.
Well, I am officially overwhelmed in the best possible way, and I hope you, listening, are feeling that same sense of awe.
And this is just one kingdom of life. There's always more to learn.
Absolutely. We want to thank you for sticking with us through this whole countdown. It has been a ride. If you enjoyed getting your mind completely blown by the fungal kingdom, make sure you subscribe. We have got plenty more deep dives coming your way.
But maybe take a walk in the woods first. Go say thanks to the defragmenters.
Good advice. Thanks for listening to the Extraordinary 10 podcast.